Okay, I'm going to admit all. Okay, here comes everybody. I'm just going to look for a leak. A leak. Oh, it was just a leak. Okay. All right, I have a leak on here.
Okay, Doug is ready to be let in, so find Renee and Doug.
Renee's in, I think everybody's been admitted, so.
But no, find them in.
Oh, okay, yeah. Folks, 1 second, we're still setting up.
All right, he's good.
Okay. So everyone else is muted?
Yes. And I only have a chat with, a private chat with a leak. Everybody else is off.
Private chat going, and then the interpreter is on that as well, right?
There's nobody in the waiting room.
Okay.
We have 100.
Good evening, everyone. This is Mayor Larry Jacobs. Welcome to the Bedminster Township Committee meeting of February 1st, 2021. It's February, which we survived 1 month of 2021. February is greeting us with another kick. We'll get through that. Thank you all. I will recognize that we have a full complement of the Township Committee attending tonight's meeting. Committeeman Hickey and I are sitting here in Town Hall after shoveling our driveways to get here, as is Robin Ray, who is our Deputy Clerk, and she is managing the meeting tonight. We also do have Committeewoman Renee Moreski, who is attending remotely, Committeeman Stevenson attending remotely, and Committeewoman Hernandez also attending remotely. Ms. Sullivan, may we please have the Open Public Meetings Act statement?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. Adequate notice of this meeting of the Township Committee was sent to the Courier News in Somerville and to the Burnsville News in Whippany. Also to all subscribers, and then posted here at the Township Municipal Building as of January 7th, 2021.
Great, thank you. Please join me in saying for the Pledge of Allegiance. If you don't have a flag, we happen to have one right behind you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
States of America, and to the republic for which it stands,
One nation,
under
under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice.
justice for all.
So we have a couple with this different take on tonight's meeting, which I'm going to get into shortly. But before we do, as I've been doing since the start of the COVID crisis, I've been running through Bedminster numbers. Now I'm wearing a mask. I'm taking it off now to proceed with the rest of the meeting. But a reminder, until the vaccine is widely available, and we actually get to a point of having herd immunity, which we're not sure how far off that is, masks remain our primary defense on spreading and contracting the coronavirus. So wash your hands, practice social distancing, wear your mask. The numbers for Bedminster as of today, this is once again a count from the county, the Somerset County Health Department, and the Somerset County Health Department gets its data from the state, and the state gets its data from nationally recognized laboratories. So these are the laboratory confirmed cases from the start of the COVID crisis. So in Bedminster, that number is now at 263 confirmed cases and 5 fatalities. The fatality number has stayed the same for several months. A couple of times it was at 4, went up to 5, went back to 4, 5 again, back to 4, has been at 5 for probably about 2.5 months now. So I know a lot of folks have heard me say this before. The confirmed cases are laboratory confirmed cases. That does not include cases that have been positive through the rapid test, or folks who have been diagnosed without actually having a laboratory confirmation. So those are only the laboratory confirmed cases. The actual number of folks who have had or currently have the virus is probably much higher. And once again, this is why we emphasize what we can do, which is practice social distancing, wash your hands, and wear a mask. Tonight, we're going to do things a little bit differently. We have a special presentation from Marilyn Davis, the Senior Director of Government Affairs for Altice. Altice is the parent company that provides the optimum cable and internet service for good Bedminster. Now, and Marilyn will actually be joined by Samantha Pardal Jerez, who works with her at Altice. Some of you may realize or may remember that 2 years ago, when I first became mayor, one of the things I wanted to do was to establish a better relationship between the community and JCP&L. JCP&L provides the electrical service for all of Bedminster Township, and there were certain portions of the Bedminster community that were experiencing power interruption on a routine basis. Sometimes the outages were for a few seconds, sometimes they were for a few minutes, sometimes they were longer. But there were certain neighborhoods that were experiencing those outages more than others. Put together a utility committee, and we are lucky here in Bedminster that we actually have a utility expert on the township committee, Committeeman Hippie. So one of the first things that we had done with JCP&L was there was one outage that was particularly problematic. We brought the JCP&L team and we said at the time, bring in your engineers and we're going to talk about that particular outage. I believe that outage was February or March of 2 years ago. And we're going to talk about not just that outage, but the JCP&L service overall. From that meeting with community reps in attendance, we then went to subcommittee and had frequent meetings with JCP&L, talking about the service, talking about the repairs, the problems that folks were facing. And believe it or not, we actually saw improvement. We saw JCP&L responding to the community members, and it's still a work in progress. There's still outreach back and forth with the JCP&L representatives. It's not over yet. But that served as a template for us to proceed with other utility problems. And certainly,
Mayor, I'm sorry, excuse me, Mayor. I apologize that you put in, but the folks in chat are having a hard time hearing you. I apologize for interrupting you, but maybe can we get you closer to the microphone?
all right, we're switching to a different microphone. Doug, is that any better?
It was better for me, but I could hear the first one. Let me just see if the folks in the chat say it's better.
Okay.
Can you just speak for a little bit?
Okay, so we had that experience with JCP&L. That is an ongoing process with JCP&L. We have heard from residents over the last 2 years and probably goes back further about their optimum service, both internet and cable, and both expressions of not just the service being provided with, but also with issues that folks have had with customer service and customer relations. So I reached out to Marilyn Davis, who is our representative for government affairs from Altice, and asked her, would she be willing to participate in a similar program to what we did with JCP&L? And Marilyn responded quite graciously, of course. And so this meeting has been months and months ready to kick off, and we've had some discussions with Marilyn in advance to let her know what the concerns are, what she expects to hear from folks. And what I'd like to do now is we're going to turn it over to Ms. Davis to talk about where Optimum and Altice are in the service that they're currently provided, where they see rooms for improvement and upgrades.
Excuse me, Mayor, can I just interject? Can everyone please mute so that we can hear the speaker? Because we hear typing on our end.
Mute your thing. Oh my God.
We're experiencing a little feedback here.
I'm just gonna shut you off for a second. Because you won't be picking up off there.
There's
Okay,
people-
Robin, tell me
there's
if,
people that were not.
so everyone who, can we mute all? And then just, once again, we'll open up to Ms. Davis and Ms. Burdell Perez. So Robin. you-
Sorry, I have a couple more people in the waiting room trying to admit, sorry.
Okay, so the way this program is going to work tonight is Ms. Davis and Ms. Pardal Perez will walk through what Altice is
Mute
working
it.
and their current situation within Bedminster. And some of this may be engineering, some of this is service. but what-
That means it's muted. Jesus.
Somebody's muting.
You're going to mute all.
Colin, can you just come over here for a minute, please? I'm so
So
sorry.
1 second, we're still going through a little technical difficulties over here.
Where am I muting everybody on? Right here.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah, take that off.
I said no, right?
No, you don't want to let them do that, right? So take that off. Yeah, now
Now
click
we're
it.
good.
No, click yes now. Now you have to
Right.
unmute.
All right, give me 1 second. I have to unmute a few people here. Getting there. I saw Doug before. There he is. Okay. I just can't find Renee.
Okay, unmute Samantha. Did that work? Good, unmute. Okay,
She's good. And then I'm looking for Renee.
keep going.
And I do need to keep the chat feature on early now. Sorry.
Yeah. no
Are you
problem.
ready for me to speak?
No, we're 1 second, Marilyn.
That's right, right there.
Mm-mm.
Let me ask her what she's logged in as.
Mhm.
Robin, who are you looking for at this point?
Renee.
Robin.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so I hope folks were able to hear me. I'm just going to repeat real quickly. 2 years ago, we started a program with JCP&L to bring JCP&L representatives in to work with both the Township Committee, especially Committeeman Hickey, who has experience in the utility fields, and with community members. We're taking that model that we believe has worked successfully with JCP&L and the community. We're trying to recreate that and hopefully end up with the same level of success and continue the relationship with Altice regarding the optimum service. So this is not a be all and end all for tonight's meeting. We hope this is the start of a continuing process and continuing dialogue. So what we're gonna do right now is I'm gonna turn it over for Marilyn Davis and Samantha Bardal Perez to talk about what Altice is working on. They'll run through a program. There'll be some questions from the Township Committee, and then we will open up questions to the public. There'll be one question at a time, and Ms. Ray will admit one person in who's going to be taking the questions, or I'm sorry, asking a question. We'll allow all teams the opportunity to answer that question and we'll proceed from there. So Marilyn and Samantha, are you guys ready?
Yes.
Okay, Marilyn,
Okay.
you have the meeting.
Okay, I'm ready. Good evening. I'm Marilyn Davis. I'm the Area Director for Government Affairs for Altice. Under normal circumstances, I would just engage with city officials. We're not in normal times. So I was wanted to say that I am supporting the larger enterprise as it relates to addressing any community related issues. So the town comes to me and the town says there's an issue. I then escalate it to the appropriate department to try to resolve the matter. Certainly, everyone knows, the industry, not just here in New Jersey, but globally, has been impacted by COVID. The business model the business model never conceptualized everyone working from home and everyone being on the internet in particular at the same time. So initially, when COVID hit, and the cable industry is really like taking an old Mercedes and trying to make it, newer, right? In very quick fashion, which is a challenge. But when COVID initially hit, like every other company, we also had challenges in that we had to change our business model. One of the areas that we had to change was customer care. Before COVID, customer care was centralized. Now customer care has been decentralized. So our workers who were, for instance, in the Newark call center, they're now working from home, whereas previously they were located in Newark, right? We've also had to, so that was one area where we had to change our business model. And we totally understand that has been a pain point for customers because it's just like, so typically the customer care industry, if you will, there's a lot of churn in the industry just in general. During COVID, we had a higher churn, meaning more employees quit because they didn't want to work in close proximity. Traditionally, the cable industry has been an office-based business model. Again, we have revamped to work from home for most of the company. So there are some changes that we had to endure, with our employees and certainly with the public. So that certainly we recognize that has been that was and probably continues to be a pain point for customers engaging with customer care. I will say that from April probably till about August, September, it was just really, really painful for all of us, including myself. But in August, we were able to bring on more people online, train, and there's a pretty robust training program for our care workers. So we've seen, we've increased resources to care, and we've seen some improvements because, as you all may know, especially city officials, the company is required by the FCC to meet certain call time metrics. And so prior to that, we were not meeting our metrics in Q2 and Q3, which is when COVID hit. But in Q4, we were able to meet our metrics. So we're seeing improvement in the system. We're not where we want to be, but we certainly see improvements. That said, I do recognize that to some people may still have challenges with customer care, and that tends to drive traffic to municipal officials. But we're revamping things to address that as well. So care has been a pain point. The other piece that's been a pain point for customers is for the most part, wireless has been the biggest driver, or I'll say broadband has been the biggest driver. What we have come to realize, I feel like the wolf who cry, or the wolf who always crying. In that, in the beginning, when we first started seeing an increase in complaints or outreach from municipal officials to the company, we thought we had a network issue in some cases. And once we started to dig deeper, Certainly there were some, challenges with the infrastructure, certainly, which is not unusual. It's like, again, having an old Mercedes, you still have to do work on it, right? Or Mercedes, you have to do some work on it regardless. So we had the normal issue, but it was exacerbated because we've come to realize, and this may not necessarily apply to a particular area in Bedminster that I'll get to, but for the most part, the issue was in the wireless environment, not the wired environment. So for the most part, we can tell that the service was going to the home is once the service was in the wireless environment, individuals having issues, and especially if you're in a family of four, you tend to see it and feel it, sooner than others. So that was happening not only in Bedminster, but again, across the state. And again, consumer behavior changed. So the industry had to kind of adapt to the consumer behavior. We have a team that monitors the network overall, and we have targets that we must reach in the network, targets we must stay under. So when those targets increase, then we have sent a team out, we call it outside plant team, to look at the network to make sure everything is operating. And again, what we found is that in the wireless environment is where we found the issues. So just to level set here, if you have 200 megabytes of speed, that is from the network to your modem. And in a wired environment, I mean, you're plugged directly into the router, you will get the 200. It's when you're in a wireless environment where it's going to drop down drastically, and you'll have different devices competing in that wireless environment. So you'll have the Ring doorbell, your smart TVs, your iPads, your computers, multiple computers, Alexa, Google Home. All these devices are competing in your wireless environment. But on top of that, you also have, where's your router located? Is it located in the basement, in the attic? It's in a centralized location. So all these things, again, under COVID unearthed all these things that we didn't necessarily was the issue before, because consumers' behavior was different. So as a result of that, when we realized that there were issues with in the wireless environment with upstream or downstream, we added more capacity in most of the escalated communities. We've added capacity to the network. In Bedminster, we should have the capacity added, what we call 28D, 28 downstream or 6 upstream. That's scheduled to happen this month in February. And part of that is like, if you imagine adding more lanes to a highway so that you can reduce the congestion. So that's one issue, one thing we're looking to do, or we're doing this month in Bedminster. There is an area in the town, the Hills, where we need to access our equipment, but will require us to do underground work. And I believe our construction folks are in touch with the Homeowners Association to get access. So if anyone, one has a relationship there, or two lives in the Hills, please contact me. It's my understanding that our construction team has been engaging with the Homeowners Association since June to get access there to augment the network there. And again, it requires that we do some underground work. And as you all know, in the Homeowners Association, one person can impact whether or not that work can get done. So if that's an area that somebody has a relationship with, please let me know as well, so that we can try to get that issue resolved. But the Hills is definitely likely seeing some issues there. Aside from the Hills, aside from the adding more capacity to the network, which is again going to happen here, happened this month. And Samantha, feel free to jump in here. The company in 2017 announced that it was going to upgrade the network from what is now a hybrid coax and fiber network to 100% fiber optic. That is in the works. And I know we met with Bernard, but I believe we've been to Bedminster, but I'll confirm, but through the mayor, I'll relay back the timing for when we expect to go live in Bedminster. But there's an ongoing project that we're still working on to launch. Is there anything else I want to say? So we're doing fiber to the home, we're adding more capacity, and we need access to the hills. I think I saw, and I tried to read the comments, someone wanted to know, let me just scroll up. And I hope my description of the wireless versus wired environment addresses Rick G's question. I can't speak to pricing, but certainly if anyone has an issue regarding pricing, I can connect you with what we call corporate executive customer relations, and they can work with you directly on any issues you're having with pricing. Again, under normal circumstances, I would engage with the municipality around renewing franchises or any issue that pertains to the town. So pricing is not my area of expertise, but I can certainly connect you with someone who can assist you with that. And I know someone asked about the outage that occurred this weekend in Basking Ridge, which may have impacted Bedminster. The issue that happened there was an issue an outside issue that it took a lot of resources to identify the problem there that was caused by, it was like a shortage that was on the outside that impacted some of the residents there. But once we were able to identify the problem, we were able to get it resolved. And my understanding is that that area is fine today. I mentioned to the mayor when we talked last week that there was an area of town, and just give me 1 second, I'll pull it up. Like Stone Run Road, I believe, was the area where there was some, it's probably one of the areas that had the most, we got the most feedback or requests for service. And there we had an infrastructure issue and a crack in the cable that happened, and that we were able to address once we got called from the residents and were able to see that problem. So there are some issues that, again, at the knock level, we're able to see, but then there's, when you drill down to the neighborhood, in some cases there are issues like infrastructure that doesn't necessarily pop up on the radar. And sometimes it requires us to send a technician out, send maybe outside plant out, or other resources to try to drill down to figure out what the issue is. I think, Samantha, is there anything else you want to add? Samantha? So someone asked if they could get in, how could they get in contact with me? I believe someone put my email in the, Mayor, can someone unmute Samantha? I think the moderator has to unmute Samantha. So someone asked for my email address. It's marilyn.davis16@altisusa.com. If you have any questions, I can get them over to our corporate executive customer relations team and they can address any issues. One thing about coming through me is when we see an issue in a town, I'm able to pull the vice president for field services, the vice president for corporate executive customer relations, and in some cases, the EVPs, so that we can resolve an issue. So certainly feel free to send me an email, and I'm happy to assist. And so, and I see someone says, I have to use hotspot for my kids to take the class. In some cases, the issue could be with the network, maybe, or wiring in your home, maybe, but it would require us to send a technician out to assess the situation. But also, it could be the school. So we've seen over the course of the last 11 months that in some cases, the school's firewall is an issue as well. But again, it requires a tech to come out so that we can resolve issues. And I know that over the course of, I would say 10 months, even though we're 11 months into COVID, we've had some issues with our technicians, and certainly we've addressed those issues. We've had to transition people out who weren't, best equipped to service the public, right? So we've had some challenges, again, on the care side, some with the technicians, but we're at a place now where we're, the technicians now are not You may have experienced some technicians having like the Burger King mentality, get in, get out, right? So we've eliminated that thinking. Now technicians are focused on being solution oriented. If you have engaged with technicians, especially in the last month or 6 weeks, you may have seen a different type of personalities I'll say personality. So that's happening as well. So the person who's having an issue with the hotspot, using the hotspot for the kids, certainly feel free to contact me and we can do a deeper dive to see what's going on there. Another 6 months. Right? So again, I think Gary Wren wanted to know the continuation of the pandemic. What are we doing? We're adding more capacity to the network. Once we get access to the hills, we'll be able to provide better service to that community. But there are areas, and sometimes what happens, and I'll give you an example, in conversation with a town, Kinnelon, the town shared, there's an area of town that has a dead spot that we were not aware of. So there are issues where particular neighborhoods having an issue, we can do a deeper dive to see what is happening. I see Matthew mentioned we have a monopoly. We don't have a monopoly. We may be the only provider in town, but any provider can come into Bedminster. We just have a license to operate in town. So any other provider wants to come in can come in. I see Dennis Archer said he called corporate today. He engaged with 6 people. Dennis, please email me and I can escalate that to management to bring it to their attention and see if we can resolve whatever the issues that you have. Jim, you're welcome to send me an email. I'm happy to forward it to customer executives. We call it CECR. So Dottie, you don't have to call the CEO. You can just call me, and whatever issue you have, I can resolve, and I can certainly escalate it to our executive management team if need be. But if there's an issue or service need you have, just work through me and I'll get it resolved. Now Jada says she lost phone service. Not sure if it's home service or mobile service, but if it's phone, again, come to me and we'll get it, I'll escalate and get it resolved. I'm not quite sure what Deepon is saying, but HHMA has not informed us of the maintenance. Early advance notice and timing would be nice and ideal. So sometimes when we see that the traffic in a particular node is reaching the threshold that's of concern to us, that is when we take action. So it may be, and it could be over a period of 72 hours, we're watching to see whether it's just a fluke in the increase in traffic or is something going on. So that's about as much time that you'll typically get. But it just depends on the activity that's happening locally. I'm not sure what Michael Estrin is missing. I thought I gave a pretty thorough presentation about where we are and the issues that are still afoot and what we plan to do to resolve them and the timing that we plan to resolve them. So if Jim Alves could provide me with his contact information, address, and account number, I can find out what's happening in Amherst Muse. And David Heller, again, we're going to increase capacity this month in February, so you should see a difference. And I'll let the mayor know when that work is completed so that the town is aware. And usually, if it happens on a Tuesday, you will see changes in the system that same day. But I'll keep the mayor apprised of that. Timberbrook could be on the same node as the hill. So if you can give me more information, I can do a deeper dive to find out what's happening. So Altice owns Optimum. So to us, it's synonymous. So my apologies if it's confusing to people, but Altice owns the Optimum. Samantha, Jeffrey Cohen is asking for the best number to reach customer service. If you have that readily available. Where is that number? If you can't speak, just send to me and I will, okay, Samantha's gonna send the best number for customer service in the chat. And Pretty's iPad, again, I will find out when the fiber to the home project will occur in Bedminster through the mayor, and I will provide the information. I'm not quite sure. I know that the project started in 2015 and our plan was to have it.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Now you're on. Now it's like.
Marilyn, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So one of the things that I think we'd like to do, unless you're coming in, we're trying to figure out what speaker we're actually coming through. You had mentioned the conversion to fiber, and you also mentioned when you were just talking about the adding capacity. So the additional capacity will happen in February. Is that a complete different process than the conversion to fiber?
Yes, it is. So right now we have, again, a hybrid system that's both fiber optic and coax. So it's coax to the home. The fiber to the home will be 100% 100% fiber optic to the home.
Now, does that mean that from every line leading into every home or every resident, that line is being changed out?
So not change, we're going to do what we call overlashing. So we will take the existing cabling and we'll just overlash it with fiber. We'll
But so physically, there will be an Optimum or there'll be an Altice crew that shows up and brings the fiber, that brings that fiber line, whether it's over meshing, but physically there'll be crews coming out to every resident or every Optimum user?
Every neighborhood in Bedminster will receive, will get upgraded to a fiber optic system. I mean, not everyone's going to, so the fiber optic will run one, I'm sorry, I have a rescue dog. Will run, fiber to the home will bring 1G service to the community. And our goal is to take it to 10G, but initially we're going to start with 1G fiber optic. We currently have 1G that's on the coax side, so don't want to confuse the two. So not everyone's going to need 1G, right? So for those customers who are interested in higher speeds, certainly that will be available to them. But most customers are not going to need that speed.
Now, so when you have the physical act of connecting to the fiber, is that a different service that Optimum provides? Is that additional charge? Is there an upcharge as you convert from the coax or the hybrid system to the straight fiber optic system?
For those customers who are interested in the 1G or 1G service, it is a premium price for that.
Okay. Well, now for those who aren't taking the fiber optic upgrade to the full capacity, will they still see an improvement in connections with the new fiber connections?
I'm not sure, but they'll see an improvement once we add more, do the augmentation this month. They'll see improvement.
Okay. And Marilyn, when we had our prep call just, I guess it was last week, you talked about the service calls that have gone out over the last, I guess it was within 2020. So can you just talk about the calls that, or I guess the truck rollouts that have gone to Bedminster during that time frame?
So we've had about, I'll say 700 service visits in the last 6 months. Most of the service visits, let's see, about 18% of them were related to intermittent data, so the internet, and slow speeds.
So when you're seeing, and is 18%, is that the largest category of service calls?
So I have two stats. I would say about 80% are Wi-Fi related.
What was that?
80% Wi-Fi related.
Wi-Fi, okay. So 80% Wi-Fi related.
Yeah.
And that gets back to I presume that's the wireless internal issues, and then the other 18% are just about that intermittent service. So when, and maybe this is a question that you or Samantha knows, for the 18% that are related to intermittent service, is there some consistency? I mean, you earlier, you had talked about network improvements and some network upgrades that Altice was committed to. Is there a correlation between that 18% service calls and the network infrastructure improvements that you had just mentioned?
So let me take a step back. I'm sorry, Mayor. I just want to give you the stats. So 54% were scheduled for data, 30% was scheduled for TV, so television issues, 12% was scheduled for all services, and 4% was scheduled for phone.
Okay. But I'll come back to my question, which is there some consistency in the complaints in the service calls that it's no longer the line leading into someone's house or a line leading into a neighborhood, but that there's something larger? And I want to tie it back to what you had mentioned earlier about the improvements to the infrastructure, the logistics themselves.
So I would say that the hills, it could be related to, again, the congestion, but each person, it will vary. We know it's broadband related, but it could be, it runs the gamut. There's just so many variables that could be the reason for the issue.
Okay.
Especially in a wireless environment.
Now, and just 700 service visits in 6 months. I've learned from listening to JCP&L and from sitting next to Commissioner Hickey. That sounds like a lot. It sounds like it's very expensive to Altice to roll 700 service calls in 6 months.
So some of it could be repeat service visits. So as I mentioned to you earlier, some of our technicians had the Burger King mentality. So it could have been that they didn't fix it on the first time there. And I'll give you a good example. The person in Baskin Ridge where there was the outage, he had probably 2 techs come out before we were able to really dig down and see what the issue was there.
And I know we talked about the service calls and different neighborhoods. Can you also drill in? Are there certain neighborhoods that are experiencing the similar problems, or are you just seeing sort of widespread problems throughout our town?
As I mentioned to you during our meeting, like Stone Run Road, I think they had about 12 service visits there. Foxwood Court had about 9. Birchwood Road, 8. Four Oaks Road, 6. But most of the areas was like, one on like in a particular node, like one on the streets. But those are like the highlights of the ones that we saw where there was like multiple service visits on a particular street. We had like High Pond Lane had like 5. Wren Lane, Long Meadow had 3. No, Wren Lane had 3, Long Meadow Road had 3. So our guys look at this type of data and then to see whether or not there's something else bubbling up beneath the numbers.
Okay. Now, when you talk about those network improvements, can you, are you at liberty to actually describe what some of those network improvements are going to be and when they're going to be implemented?
So again, we're adding what we call 28B, which is 28 downstream. Again, like adding 28 lanes to a road, and we're going to add 6 upstream, which is like adding 6 lanes to a road.
And that's going to help on the wireless issues, correct?
That is going to add more capacity to the network for the wireless for broadband.
Okay. Well, you know,
Wireless is very tricky. And again, because of all of the variables that happen in a wireless environment, again, the size of your home, where the router is located, it really requires a service visit to kind of assess the local situation. And again, whether it's on the outside and the inside. So I know that some people are probably have called for a technician to come out and are startled by the service fee. But if the issue is not on your end, you will not get charged the service fee. So I would just urge anyone who's having any issues and they need a tech to come out, a service technician to come out, allow them to come out. And especially if you know that the issue, you didn't move anything, you didn't touch anything, and it could be wiring or something on the outside, they will assess that, and the consumer is not charged if the issue is not on the homeowner.
okay. Colin?
Yeah, Marilyn, a couple of questions. It's Colin Hickey here. First off, you mentioned some of the upgrades that are being done, expected this month, but you also mentioned that you have to do some underground work. Are those two relying on one another?
No, the two are unrelated.
Okay, so so the fiber that you need to pull into the individual neighborhoods is a further augmentation and should provide additional capacity and less blockage, assumably, right?
So we put it in buckets. The 28D and 6 upstream is one bucket. The splitting a node, what we need to do in the hills, that's a separate bucket. And then just long-term capital investment project is the fiber to the home, where we're bringing fiber optic into the town.
So the node splitting, is that going to be conducted this month as well?
Again, it depends on, I have to talk to the homeowners association, but I'm trying to drill down and see how we in government affairs can assist construction with bringing that to closure.
So we have on this phone call.
Yeah, I was going to say, we do have a number of homeowner association representatives on tonight's call.
Right. So what we can do after the call, Marilyn, is I can reach out to, we have multiple homeowners associations in the hills, as well as 3 masters who oversee those homeowners associations. So we can start with the master association members, and then they can work with the individual homeowners association members so that we can get them in contact with you and see what needs to be resolved or what access you need right away, et cetera. So I think that's one.
And I'll bring our construction team to the table, as well as our engineers, so we can see what needs to get done, so we can get it done efficiently and quickly.
And
That'd be helpful.
not just on something that we, Marilyn, that we did work with JCP&L when we were working this similar complaints with community members, the Township Committee, and JCP&L. One of the things that we talked about is making sure that, you know, you're a the government relations person, but there's also, you know, the other group that actually has, you know, the hammer and nails and shovels and puts everything together, that it's good to bring both the community and the engineering elements as well. So that you can actually drill down to some specifics and improvements, infrastructure upgrades, and a schedule as well.
Agree. And I know computer at somebody with a computer at 742 said our customer care should be, our operators should be more informed about the hills issue. And truthfully, I'm sorry, the construction guys, the engineers, sometimes they don't talk. You have to ask questions and talk to them to get information. I mean, traditionally, like pre-COVID, government affairs wasn't necessarily part of the process. But since COVID, we've had to insert ourselves, because if the mayor calls me, then I got to figure out what's going on, and I got to go to engineers, to different departments to try to bring issues to resolution. So I say that to say that we were able to unearth the issue with the homeowners association recently, and then I asked the question, well, how long and who are you talking to? And so any assistance you can provide, they'll be helpful to kind of close the loop on that and bring it to resolution. But traditionally, I wouldn't be part of the process, so they wouldn't necessarily inform me of any issues there. But because of COVID, I'm kind of injecting myself into places I normally would not be.
From my perspective, I acknowledge that. I know Committeeman Hickey does, as well as the rest of the Township Committee, and we we appreciate you showing up here. We know you're not the one that's going to go out and do all those service calls. And we know that you've got to interface within your own organization to get a lot of that done. So, you know, there's a lot of comments that are flying fast and furious right now. But, you know, I do want to make sure that we appreciate you coming here and handling those questions. But at the same time, we also want to make sure that this is not the end, right? There's still questions coming through, and we'll go through the rest of Township Committee comments. I know that I'm sure Committeeman Hickey has more comments, but I do want to talk about, you know, the next step. So we have tonight's meeting. If there's a way that we could perhaps convene with a smaller group, with you and perhaps some of the engineering team from Altice, and you know, this way we can disseminate the information perhaps on a little more specific basis. If that's something that Altice is willing to do.
Absolutely. So understand that I'm here truthfully as an advocate for the community inside the company. So at the same time, I'm here with the company to disseminate information to the community. So I am available anytime to engage and to bring the parties together. As one would say, I have convening power to bring different assets within the enterprise to the table to address any community issues that exist.
That'd be great. Okay, thank you. I'm sorry for interrupting Colin before.
No, not at all. Thank you, Mayor. Marilyn, you had touched on this before, but I think one of the things that would help is if there's a point of contact within Altice that could be designated or act as our kind of customer service agent who can do the analysis and the studies of what the common threads are in some of these outages. We're seeing persistent outages. You mentioned Stone Run. There are others in the hills, but I'm wondering if there's somebody who can be in charge of looking through these trouble tickets, understanding what the core common problems are, and then working to resolution on some of those.
So Samantha Pardo-Jerez, who's on this call, she's the one who receives the data from the business. She's the one who when there's an issue, she'll say, in this community, we're seeing an issue. Can we do a workup, an analysis of what's happening locally? And then they'll give us information and so forth, and then we'll provide it to the town. So just continue to send information to Samantha and I, and we'll work it internally.
And when we were on the prep call last week, I think Samantha had mentioned that there is a primer with respect to when you have inside problems with respect to Wi-Fi, go through these, certain troubleshooting steps first. Is that a resource? I think we put that up on the website, Robin. But is that we should be able to get that resource out. Maybe Samantha can speak to it for a few seconds just to walk everybody through it.
Samantha,
Sure. So I can speak through it, and then I will put the link in the chat so everybody on the call can also have access to it. It's basically customer communications that are on our optimum.net website that provide a guide basically to do troubleshooting before you go and you call customer service or you try to chat with a live agent. One of them is how to restart your modem, gateway, or router. The other one, I believe, has to do with, it's just loading on my computer very slowly. Sorry. Just kind of like the frequently asked questions. A lot of the times we see that people are requesting service visits to have a technician come out to their home. And unfortunately, it happens to be CPE or the customer equipment that is actually the issue. So kind of just familiarizing yourself with your equipment, making sure everything is plugged in correctly, even just doing a reset or a restart of your modem or router. Sometimes I know that sounds simple and it's probably frustrating, but that can resolve your issue. Anytime we send a technician out and the issue is not wiring in your home, is not that your equipment is being faulty, and does lay within the network, there is no service visit charge. So always check your equipment first before you go and that you request to have somebody come and visit. I'm going to put the links that I'm speaking to into the chat feature. So if anybody has any questions, I put my email in there a couple of times. Otherwise, you can reply through the chat and I'll try my best to answer them.
Okay, thank you, Samantha.
I think we should, if there are specific questions that the community wants to ask, we should probably open it up.
Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to give folks the opportunity to pose specific questions to Marilyn and to Samantha. So we're going to do this one at a time. And to ask a question, if you are participating on your PC, please go down to the participant level, wave your hand. Robin Ray, who is administering tonight's meeting, will let you in and ask you to unmute. Ask your question, and then Robin, you'll have to mute them afterwards. Okay, so for folks who want to pose a question rather than through the chat, wave your hand. Once again, go down to on the participant key.
They're actually just waving their hand.
Okay. Okay, it's not physically waving your hand. If you go down to the bottom of the screen where it says participants, you should be able to click on that, and there's a wave hand feature. Okay, so there's 2 participants with raised hands. Robin, if you'll take care of that.
Sure, I just want to make sure. So the first gentleman was Jim Ailes. I'm going to ask him to unmute.
Okay, so when you ask your question, state your name and your address, and then pose your question, please.
Yes, my name is James Alice. I live at 24 Benedict Crescent, Basking Ridge.
Mr. Alice, can you repeat your address?
24 Benedict Crescent.
Benedict Crescent. Okay, thank you, Mr. Alice.
So first I'd like to say, I've spoken with Marilyn, and she's very, very accommodating. She has a heart of gold. She is trying real hard. Unfortunately, the company she works for has a lot of technical issues. And in Bedminster and Basking Ridge, the whole Hills area has a capacity. It's been proven by the technicians. I've spoken with several technicians that come out to visit, and they're going to have to increase that. It costs money. They've delayed it. Now they're blaming it on some homeowners association. I got that from corporate today. So somehow, Bedminster, Basking Ridge, we need to pull our resources together, the governments together, and go after Altice. They must correct this issue. It is their money issue. That's why they're avoiding it. That's money to do these nodes. On top of that, they have this customer service model that when you talk to people, you can't understand what they're saying. And their first response is, it's always our fault. They convince me that my modem is bad. So I go down to the store in Piscataway. I stand outside in the cold wind, sub-freezing degree temperatures, get a new modem, come home, and the modem's bad. So they don't even test it on the equipment. I go back and get another modem and come back, and then they tell me that my router is bad. It's not compatible with the new modem. I go and spend $250 for a new modem. I install a new modem. Then they tell me, oh, well, there must be a problem with us. And then they finally agreed to send a technician out, and the technician told me it was that back there. And so we're now in a long process of getting a node split. Thank you for it.
Thank you, Mr. House.
Lou, do you still have a question?
Hi, yes. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. And your name and address, please?
Yes, it's Lou Siakio, and I am at 29 Teal Lane in the Four Oaks community.
Okay, thank you, Lou.
Yep. So first off, I appreciate the mayor and Colin Hickey for hosting this. I think this is long overdue, but appreciate you guys putting this together. I'd like to just share my story. I've lived here for several years and I've experienced intermittent connectivity issues. It's not an issue of speed for me, but my internet will drop 5, 10, 20 times a day. I think much of us are working from home. Our careers and our professions rely on our ability to be able to get on the phone, take video calls. People have children who are schooling from home, and we constantly drop calls. We're not able to conduct our way of life anymore. And while I understand the impact of COVID and can appreciate that, the stress and the challenges that have been put on Optimum, I continue to see the company deflect and say the issue is with the residents or the homeowners association. And what I would expect and what I would like to see is a detailed action plan outlining the steps that are going to be taken, and understanding that this won't take, that this won't be overnight. This will take time of when we can expect certain actions to resolve certain issues. I think that's what I would like to see for the next meeting. I think we need somebody who can speak to the technical issues and the business. And Marilyn's great. I appreciate her coming and being the corporate representative, but we need somebody informed to speak to the actual issues. So thank you for hearing my comments, and again, appreciate the forum tonight.
Okay, and thank you, Lou. And I think what you heard from me and from Colin, and you heard from Marilyn and Samantha as well, is that we're on that course. So agreed, long overdue, but we're here to start this going, or to start this and keep it going. So thank you, Lou, for those comments. Robin, next.
Mayor, next is Jeffrey Leonard.
Jeffrey Leonard.
Hey, everybody. How are you? Marilyn, again, thank you for joining us, and Samantha as well, and Larry and Colin for setting this up. I reiterate everything Lou said. I do agree with most of his comments that most of the problems that we've been experiencing, because I'm on in the Wynwood section, Westcott Road. And it's mainly, I think the issue is dropping of internet service completely. And of course, the phone goes away with it. Okay, the house phone, that is. And it just seems to do it, and seems to do it more in the overnight hours. Sometimes it's intentional, sometimes it isn't. I appreciate the website as an option, but if your internet is out, you can't use the website. So that's really not helpful. I just figured I'd add that. But I would like for, we also have, and I'll mention this as well, as Larry said, I'm the president of the Master Association over here, Hills Village North. So we have an advocacy committee here for utilities, and we would like to work with you, Samantha and Marilyn, and anybody that you have that's technical, as Larry said, be involved in that process for our immediate area. I have Jackie Weber on the call as well, and she's on our advocacy group. So if that could happen, we'll work with you, because I have access to all of our sub-associations as well. 5 of the 6 members of their board sit on my master board. So, I mean, and I have not been approached at all about any infrastructure replacements, but I think that that's absolutely necessary at this point, because it's 30-year-old infrastructure. So that's what I think needs to happen. And also bear in mind, everybody, I'm still using old router and cable modem here myself. It's my own equipment. And when the internet goes out, it's always the internet. It's nothing to do with Wi-Fi. It's the internet coming into my house every time. And I think you're going to find that that's probably what most of these people are saying. Unless you're using that Altice equipment, which some people, I think, Jackie, you have that, where the internet is being delivered with rented equipment that is owned by Altice, in which case then that also falls on Altice. But I just wanted to make those points. Thank you, Mayor.
Jeff, and so Marilyn, just to follow up on Jeff's comments right there, do you know what the process is to reach out to the condo associations? Is that going through your offices, or is that going through engineering? Oh, Marilyn's muted.
Sorry, Mayor.
So typically, construction would reach out to the homeowners association. But when there's a roadblock, they will then engage government affairs. So I can reach out to the mayor and council to get assistance. So that's how we unearthed the issue with the hills. And I just want to respond to Jeff's point about the service. So if you have the ability to plug directly into the router, test that out to see if you're getting the speed you're supposed to get. If you're not getting the speed you're supposed to get and you're having issues, then there's a larger issue afoot. But if your service is dropping during the day, just one suggestion before, so we'll do an exploration of this, but plug your Ethernet cable into your device, your laptop, to see if you're getting the service. And if you're not, then certainly let's have a service visit, a technician come out and see what the larger issue is.
Okay, and so what I would, and I'll volunteer for this, that if there are issues that your engineering group is having, get in contact with the condo associations or the master associations. Marilyn, Samantha, you guys have an open email to both me and to Committeeman Hickey, and we will put you in touch with whatever condominium association that your engineering crew need.
So as soon as I get the details, I'm coming back to you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, thank you.
Okay, Robin, next.
We have George Kalata.
George Claudia.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, perfect. So thank you for having that meeting. This is a great discussion, of course. But my question actually to the mayor, sir, we need an alternative. I mean, we've discussed here. Merlin has provided the roadmap of the upgrades and everything, and this is very good. But this is a very long term. We have immediate problem with the service, and the speeds were not. Everybody is after COVID is at home. Working from home, the kids have schools and my son has universities, and we keep on dropping lectures and during exams, and that's not an appropriate solution. So my question is, why can't we have an alternative high speed in the hills here until at least we have an alternative to go to a different provider? Thank you.
Mr. Claudia, first, what's your address, please?
88 Patriot Hill, Basking Ridge.
Okay.
And Mr. Claude, this is Colin Hickey. Just to address that issue, unfortunately, somebody would have to go put in infrastructure to deliver those services. So Altice has made those investments as formerly Cablevision to run coax and fiber to the various neighborhoods in the hills. In order for an alternate provider to be in place, somebody would have to make that investment, put the capital infrastructure in, go dig up roads and streets and go lay cable and fiber in order to provide service, which may not be financially practical. And I think, as Marilyn can speak to this as well, I think there are, in addition to terrestrial broadband, there's also wireless alternatives that are coming online with the advent of 5G wireless broadband services. So you will have some alternatives in the future, but I think fortunately right now that the economic reality is such that you're not going to have an alternate service provider in the hills outside of Verizon, which has, I believe, stopped their fiber optic investments. So because they are also pursuing a wireless strategy for future broadband deployments.
So just as, just to follow up on Colin Hickey, from my own perspective, right? So when I lived in the hills, we had Cablevision, and where I live now, we're in Comcast territory.
Right.
Fios did come through our neighborhood, and they did make Fios available, and I took advantage of Fios and when it first came out because there was no fiber alternative in our neighborhood. But Fios and Verizon did not extend that service everywhere across the town. As Mr. Hickey said, running fiber is awful expensive, and Verizon picked and chose what neighborhoods they were going to bring the fiber optics through. So my neighborhood is one of the ones where you have an option of going to Comcast or to Fios. I believe there are a few other neighborhoods where you have that same option. but not everyone. And I certainly cannot speak to Basking Ridge. You can reach out to Mayor Fields and see if they're aware of anything up that at the Bernard's Township Committee. But right now, I am not aware of any other pending services coming out. Just as Mr. Hickey said, Verizon is not extending new fiber optics to other areas in town. And my guess is that's probably the area as well. But you did hear from Maryland that they are proceeding with a fiber optic option, and that will come at a price, you know, as it always does. That, let's see if I heard that correctly, that will start, that conversion to 100% fiber will start sometime in March. So I imagine that's, once again, a long rollout, but that will give you a fiber optic option within the Altice system.
So Mayor, I just want to walk that back. I'm not sure if I said March for fiber to the home, because fiber to the home, I'm not sure the date that we're going to, I'm not sure the date for Bedminster. We started the project in 2017. It's supposed to be a 5-year capital project. I will confirm the timing for fiber to the home to come to Bedminster. I'll let you know that when I'll check in with construction tomorrow.
Okay, thank you, Marilyn.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, I have a question from Alik Zalmover. He is at 152 Patriot Hill Drive in Basking Ridge. He said he truly appreciates having this conversation together. And his question is, when will node split happen for node 83, C as in Charlie, 211? I'm gathering this is a question for Marilyn. He's told that 100% upload capacity every day during the business days.
What is that number again?
83, C as in Charlie, 211.
And what is his name? Or can he, I'm happy to convey this to the mayor. I want to make sure that we get the information back because I don't know the timing for the node splits. I'm not sure where the node is that needs to be split. So if you can give me more information, I'm happy to find out and circle back.
Okay. The second part of the question was, when will Altice USA deploy fiber to the home in Hills Highlands, Basking Ridge, if they plan to?
Well, you know, I don't want to say that Altice should prioritize the Bedminster section first, but, you know, if priorities had to be given through the Bedminster mayor, I might suggest Bedminster first, but we'll leave that to Maryland.
So the Hills in Basking Ridge, I don't know the timing, but I can find out as well. The Hills in Basking Ridge, right?
Right, so,
yes.
So the Hills development spreads across both Bernard's Township, Basking Ridge, and Bedminster.
So the person who asked the question is welcome to email me and I'll inquire to find out the status.
Okay, so to Alik on Patriot Hill in Basking Ridge, if you can email that question, just probably copy your chat and send it an email to Marilyn. She will be able to address that question when she gets those details.
And someone asked if you're talking to the Mayor of Bernards. I'm actually talking to the Mayor of Bernards. I'm also going to do a presentation to the town of Bernards as well.
Okay, let me see if we have any more hands raised. I have Janine Carr. Janine, you need to unmute. There you go.
Okay.
Yes, I had problem with Optimum since last summer, but it intensified in the fall. And the company came, installed a new cable from the street to my house, said that should resolve any problem. Then persistent, I was losing the internet several times every day. I live alone. I don't know how to fix things. So I was calling. I had several repairmen coming. Each one found a little bit here. One says, oh, your wire is constricted because you put books on your library shelf in front. Let me remove the books and you will have no more problem, and so on and so on. Finally, in October, November, they gave me a new equipment. They brought me a new tower. Instead of the 2 Wi-Fi and the other one, they gave me a tower. And the problems intensified greatly. The repairman would come and find a little something, or, you know, a reboot or something. Nothing was working 6, 7, 8 times during the day. Finally, last week, a miracle man came from Optimum, and he supervised all my outlets, and he said he could not believe that all the people who had visited my house before had never solved these issues, all the little problem at each of the outlets. So he said he makes a report of all that. But he said, I will not promise you that when I leave, things are working, because it could be that the new equipment they gave you is deficient. That has happened before. When I leave, if tomorrow you are losing the internet again, call me. I called him that evening already, I was losing it again. He said he had addressed everything. So I called him, and he had given me his private number, and he said if I call him, he would make sure that he would order a new equipment for me, because he was sure there was a deficit, that new tower was deficient. Monday, he called me and said, I'm coming tomorrow to bring your new equipment. And it was a real miracle. And he hooked all my outlet onto it. And I have been like in La La Land ever since. After going through 4, 5, 6 months of nightmares, now I must say that everything is working.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Carr. Ms. Carr, rather than if you can give the street that you live on rather than your...
I live at 31 Hartley Lane in Basking Ridge, on top of the hills.
All right, so Marilyn, you may just want to reach out directly, or Ms. Carr reach out directly to Marilyn and let her know of that savior from Altice who swapped out your equipment.
And as I mentioned to you all earlier, we did have some technicians, again, who had, it's an analogy, a Burger King mentality, who were like get in, get out. And in the last 6 weeks, we've revamped that. We've had to, let go of some people to eliminate that mentality. But we've also have changed our business model. So I'm glad to hear that within the 6 weeks that we've made the changes, Ms. Carr was able to get resolution. But I'm happy to take her story back to management so they can drill down to see like the technicians who were part of that process. But it certainly recognize that that has been a pain point. The repeat service business has been a pain point for consumers.
So Marilyn, before we move to the next one, I'll just... Has there been some structural change within Altice, the way you run your service repairs? Is it, you mentioned a change, but what was that change? And are you seeing less complaints from residents or users following that change?
So I can't get into particulars of the changes that occurred, but we have made some changes to our business model, and we've also changed the culture of the field service team. But we have seen improvements since we made the changes. And again, this is in the course of, and Samantha, keep me honest here, 6 to 8 weeks, I guess, the changes have occurred.
Okay. All right, so we'll ask all our residents, hopefully that they have better service with this new system. And Robin, next, is it going to be Gary?
Next is going to be Freddie Morales.
Oh, it's not going to be Gary. All right, Gary, you got to wait. Freddie Morales.
Hi, this is me. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Excellent. I live on Sentinel Drive in Baskin Ridge, in Patriot Ridge neighborhood. And I'm one of those neighborhoods that has had numerous issues since I moved into the area about 6 or 7 months ago. And I actually have a very similar story to the last woman who spoke. Multiple technicians coming to my house, fixing a little bit here and there. And then eventually, I don't know if it was the same miracle maker, but I did get someone here who figured out some of the problems and actually used the same line. Can't believe you've had so many technicians at your house that have done shoddy work or haven't resolved your issue. But I have a very tactical question. I'm a customer that buys 1G, 1 gig service, even though all the technicians that I talked to said, you don't need that much speed, but that's none of their business. That's what I want to pay for. But I never get that speed. And I've had at least 8 technicians in my house testing the speed, telling me that I have too many devices on, et cetera, et cetera. But long story short, I can never get that speed. So now when I call to get a different package because I'm not able to get that speed, I get the runaround. I have to be on the phone for 3 hours with multiple technicians doing troubleshooting, et cetera, et cetera. So as one of these 100 customers that are on the phone who are unhappy with the service and have been unhappy for so much time, like, how do you make us happy? We're held hostage, so we can't go to another service provider. But, I don't get honored for a discount. If I try to get to a lower speed package, I don't get new customer pricing. I get, whatever your rack rate is, which isn't fair. Because, even when I first came on board, I wasn't able to get new pricing 2 months later after I had all of these problems. So how do you make us happy as customers so that we don't run for the hills, quote, no pun intended, once we do get another service option here? Thanks for taking the question.
Thank you, Mr. Morales.
And Fred, thanks for your question. And I'm curious. I empathize with you greatly because you came in during the height of the problems that we've been having as a new customers for 6 months. But I'm glad to hear that you were able to get a technician who was solution oriented, and I hope that was in the last 6 to 8 weeks since we made the changes. So part of and we recognize that the company's brand has taken a hit, especially during this time, and it's going to take us a long time to recover and to redeem ourselves within the community and rebuild trust. So part of the process is what we're doing tonight. One, engaging with the community to find out what are the issues. Through the mayor and council, we will then take those issues back to the town, and we'll come back to mayor and council and say, here's what we do. Here's what the problem is. Here's what we're doing to fix it. And here's the timeline that we'll take to fix it. So that is a process to try to address those issues. The company's policy on new customers versus incumbent customers, I can't really speak to that. I'm in government affairs, so that's an area that I have no jurisdiction over. It is what it is. I'm sorry, but as far as the service, I'm here to work with mayor and council to address any issues that the community is having and get those resolved.
Okay. Thank you, Marilyn.
Next, we have Gary Johnson, Mayor.
Gary Johnson. I know he's from Bedminster.
I am from Bedminster. I'm 21 Oakdale Lane in Bedminster, 4 Oaks. How are y'all doing? So the person before me had a great question that's kind of piggybacking off mine. Since we are in 4 Oaks and we have only one alternative for internet other than Verizon DSL, which is useless at 2 megabytes. I do know the fact that we purchased 300 megabytes package from Optimum to try to get that. And if we get 45 to 50 megabytes download speed, we are upload speed, we're fortunate. We don't get close to that speed. I know, Verizon's Optimum says your speed will vary based upon the number of people who are using the system, and I'm sure that's what's causing the performance issue. But my main question is again, regarding the business model. When I saw after Christmas that I could upgrade to 1 gig for $65, I said, oh, good, I'm all over that because I'm paying $115 for 300 megabytes now. Until I get online, they say, well, no, that's only for new customers. If you are an existing customer, you're going to pay another $20 more for $145 a month for 1 gig. And that's really the rub of the problem is and I know Fios is your competition, but Fios only charges $70 for 1 gig. And, you know, it's not, you should claim it's not a monopoly, but you're charging prices that we have no alternatives to go to. And that's my main concern. The other thing I will mention is true up here as well. We do get intermittent outages. We do get them like 1 minute, 2 minutes. But it happened today as well during a Zoom call to my boss. And it just happens that they have to wait for the cable to kick back on again. So we do have intermittent outages. Over the past month, we probably had about 30 of them over the month, where during the day, the internet just goes down, either when my son's on a call from school or I'm on a call from work. That's all I wanted to mention to it. Thanks.
And Gary, I'm happy to have a technician come out and see what's going on. And if we can see if it's in the area where we need to do some augmentation. But certainly share your information and I'll have somebody check and see.
So let me pose a question to Committeeman Hickey, since put him on the spot, since he's a utility guy with some cable experience.
Yeah.
So when you hear that issue that Gary Johnson raised and Fred Morales raised, slow speeds, intermittent connectivity, is that a problem in the house? Is that a problem in the line, in the incoming line, in the lateral, or is that a problem that you see upstream?
It could be an upstream problem. It could be a capacity problem. Maryland was mentioning about the node splitting. So you may have too many homes on the same node. So therefore, the offered load being put on there is just too much for the node to handle. So it's trying to divvy out what the available bandwidth is.
So just as you're having a problem with too many wireless systems, you may have a problem with too many splits coming off the one main.
Basically, right. There's too many people demanding the same amount of bandwidth. That's a fixed amount. So that's why typically a cable company will split the nodes so that only a subset of those are demanding or looking for that connectivity. But Maryland can talk, but that's one set of problems. And then, as Maryland mentioned before, and Samantha mentioned, there are problems in the home itself, within home wiring, or with the CPE, or with the router that is being provided by Altice. So it can be a host of problems. But like, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, and sometimes it could be that one of the users in the network. So for instance, if someone's running a business out of their home and they're taking up more, they're requiring more broadband, that could pose problems from other people. But again, it's one of those issues where once we realize the issue is not on the network level, but it's on we'll say household level, not saying it's the consumer, the customer, but household could be on the outside, it could be on the street, could be the wiring on the outside. So it really requires us to come out and do a service visit, find out what is happening at the local level.
And I understand that, and I'm gonna ask again to Colin, since he's my go-to expert on a lot of these technical issues. So if someone is paying for that 1 gig of speed, and whether they're running a business or not running a business, I like the way Ms. Morales described it. It's really none of your business.
Right.
I want that speed. I'm willing to pay for that speed. I should get that speed.
Right.
If the system is overwhelmed such that can never deliver that speed, you're never ever going to get what you think you bargained for. You think you're bargaining for a high-speed connection, but you can't, because the node is being split 15 bajillion ways, and by the time you get your little piece of
share.
it,
Right.
There's nothing there.
Right. Which is why you have to augment capacity and split the nodes.
And does, in the beginning, Maryland had mentioned that the FCC requires certain metrics for hold time and performance. Is that something that the FCC requires, that if you can't split the system too many times, you can't dilute the service?
Right. There's a notion of, you've paid for, as you mentioned before, I paid for a gigabit of service, and I have a certain expectation that there is an availability of a certain amount of broadband capacity X amount of the time. And yes, that is an issue. Now, look, it is a shared medium, and it's up to Altice to do the engineering analysis and the reliability engineering to understand what percentage of capacity that's been advertised is actually being delivered to those residents. and then to do the analysis to figure out, do I have to split the node? Do I have to add additional capacity into the network? Whatever it is, in order to deliver what has been provided under a service guarantee.
And understand again, and I know someone mentioned they weren't getting their speeds in a wired and wireless environment, but most of the times, if you have 200 megabytes, it is to the modem, and then when you connect your computer, you should get 200. It's when you're in the wireless environment where it drops. And again, there's just so many variables that could impact why you're not getting the speed you because the actual why you're not getting the speed you're supposed to get in the wireless environment, because you're never gonna get 200 megabytes in the wireless environment. That's just not gonna happen. And you can Google that on YouTube. They can tell you about wired versus wireless. It's when you're wired that you would get 200, but in the wireless, again, there's so many variables that can impact the speed. But again, you can just go to YouTube and they can tell you about just educate you on wired versus wireless.
Thank you. Robin?
Next, we have Rick G.
Rick G. Name and address, Rick G.
Good evening, and thanks everybody for their time and effort to get a solution here. I live at 27 Dickinson Road in Amherst Mews. And this has been a nothing less than a wretched experience since September. I work out of my home. My wife works out of my home. My neighbor works out of their home. And you might as well cut off the water supply during this time to put strain on the citizens' economics to make a living. I would like to give my UTT ticket to Maryland that I received in September, where they elevated this problem to node splitting back in September. Marilyn, could you take this down?
Is it 2301794?
Yes, thank you. I see you're watching. First of all, I think Lou has great comments, Gary, great comments, and I appreciate Mr. Ailes, my neighbor, for dogging this situation. I also had 9 technicians come here within the span of 2 months. They all point fingers at each other and that the other one didn't do a good job. If it could be changed out or fixed, it's been done. I've replaced all of my equipment, which was already good third-party equipment, with new highly rated equipment, and it still doesn't work. Although, Marilyn, I appreciate you being here, it doesn't really take away from my anger that I've manifested over these months. And I feel that your company just uses these variables as something to hide behind. And they've really treated us customers rudely and as ignorant hostages of the monopoly that has been set up. I went to upgrade to 1 gig because in trying to help the situation, I figured let's open up the pipe as much as I can. And yes, some days I get maybe 700 or 800 by the Ethernet cable. And since I've had 9 technicians and probably 2,400 calls with customer service, I feel very well educated on the equipment. And even though I have my computer set up to the Ethernet cable directly, there are days where I can get up to 700 and days where I can barely reach 30 on the download. And most days will never get above 1 on the upload. And it's the upload that we all need to Zoom with our business partners. It's the upload that our kids need to Zoom with their teachers. I feel that there should be a credit given to everybody in Basking Ridge, and particularly the Hills, since September, because nobody has gotten the service that they're paying for. And not to mention all the suffering and aggravation that we've all gone through. And I believe that if something can't be done in a straightforward way, then we should talk about some type of class action suit that you would wage against a utility. I think there's some common decency that Altice could exercise, like be truthful, tell us what's really going on. If it's going to take longer, then just let us know. If we're trying to fix our problem by upgrading and paying twice as much and it doesn't work, when we call to downgrade or get a refund, don't give us to some used car salesperson that's trying to change us out for a new service. Really, this is, it's really shameful, and your company should be ashamed of themselves. Thank you, and I appreciate your trying to do the best job that you can.
All right, thank you for your comments, Rick. If, once again, if there's going to be rebates, once again, prioritize Bedminster
And
residents.
Mayor, if you, again, you could have the residents email me directly and I can certainly escalate any concerns that they have.
I'm sure Rick got that, and and Samantha has already posted your email address on the chat, so I think everyone has that as well. It's on our town website. Robin.
Yes, next we have Steve Glickman.
Hi, thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Address, Glickman.
60 Battalion Drive, Basking Ridge.
Basking Ridge has crashed.
All right, we're gonna be charging Mayor Fields for our Zoom calls tonight.
Okay, and we'll put up a toll booth by the Highland Shopping Center. I'm sorry if I'm going to be repetitive to anybody, but throughout this call, I kept getting, my screen kept freezing up with messages that my internet connection is unstable. So my question is, and I'm not sure whether you can answer it or not, is I think for what I gathered from this call is that it seems to be capacity is a very big issue here. However, what I'm having difficulty with is why there is so much advertising and marketing for Optimum Altice to get new customers. And I find it, rather counterproductive or offensive when they can't even service the customers that they have. And I was wondering whether you could address that.
So I don't work in advertising, so I don't know. I'm not sure what their policy is or what their plans
I mean,
are.
if you turn on the TV, you could just see those endless commercials trying to, get new customers. And if we're paying for the service, we're not even getting it.
So that's
Yeah, no, just a point. Maybe you could.
So Steve, if you're having issue with your service, please email me so I can get a service technician to come out to your home. I cannot speak to what advertising is doing or what their policy is, but I can assist you with any service issues you're having.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Glickman.
And Mayor, if I could just ask, if people are having service issues, just send me an email. Let's get it resolved. And then from a high level, I can work with, again, all the departments, bring everybody together to bring resolution and communicate back what's happening. So if there's service issues, happy to help.
Okay. Question. Robin, how many more hands do we have raised?
We have 1, 2, 3, 2.
Okay.
2 more.
So let's go through those two. And the next one is?
Dan Kong.
Dan Kahn. All right, Mr. Kahn, when you get on, if you could give us your address, please.
He's been unmuted.
Mr. Kong, Dan Kong.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right.
There you are.
Thank you, Mayor. My name is Dan Kong, and well, first of all, I want to thank you for your generosity for letting the Basking Ridge residents crash your party. There's quite a bit of us, and I really, really appreciate you taking your town hall to let us talk. So thank you, and I think our mayor owes you a beer.
I'll take it.
Okay. So thank you for that. So my name is Dan Kong. I live in 118 Patriot Hill Drive. And first of all, Marilyn, thank you for coming here and being the punching bag. I know you have a tough job. A lot of this stuff is not, a lot of the stuff is not within your control, and you're doing the best you can. So first off, I want to reiterate some of the sentiments that the other residents have voiced out, which is, there's clearly a bandwidth and a reliability issue with Optimum Online. Now, one of the stories I want to share with you is that, first of all, I'm an engineer, so nobody can pull a quick one on me. I know how this stuff works. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, in regards to the service, I have my computer plugged into my cable modem through the Ethernet port, and I have a 200 megabit service, and I get maybe on a good day 80, 90 during the day. On a good day, sometimes I get 30, 40. When I call for service and I complain about my speed, what they ask is that, well, your modem you purchased yourself, it's not one of our modems, therefore we cannot help you. You have to get one of our modem. That is the go-to line. And listen, my service gets up to over 200 11 p.m. You know why? Because nobody's using it. Nobody's using the internet. It's only during the day. So clearly, it has nothing to do with my modem. That is just a smoke screen that's being used on the customers. Okay, there is clearly an infrastructure deficiency. So I just want to, kind of vent a little bit and just put that out there. That's number one. And Marilyn, again, this is not an attack on you. I know you're not the technician. You're not the executives. You don't make these decisions. I get it. So I feel bad that you're the punching bag tonight. But I do need to voice out a little bit. Then the second thing I want to ask is that when is this infrastructure upgrade happening again? And will that infrastructure upgrade will provide sufficient bandwidth for all the customers who pay the 1G? They're going to get 1G during the busiest day of the time. To the customers who pay for 200, it's going to get the 200 in the busiest day of the time. Will that infrastructure upgrade enable that maximum capacity during peak time? So that's
So Dan, it is hard for me to say when it's going to happen because I don't know if your area is one of the areas. Okay. I hear you saying that it is, and I take your word for it. I will have to take this back and say, okay, the nodes that need to be split, is this where 118 Patriot Hills Drive is located? I can't say that I don't know. So
understood. I will send you a separate email with my information, and you could respond to that to let me know. But once that node is split, will the people who pay for 1G get 1G during peak time?
I mean, you should get 1G, but I won't know until we do the work, and I just don't know.
Okay, fair answer. Well, clearly Freddie Morales wasn't getting 1G, and he paid for it, right?
And so I don't know if Freddie Morales was doing in the wired environment or the wireless environment. I mean, there's just so many variables. That's why it's really individual based. Now, it's individual based to a degree, but once we see that, like 5 customers on.
Freddie, I could come over your house, I could record it on the video, and I could show you how it's done, and we could have evidence that you're not getting 1G if needed. Okay, so that's that. But now again, Marilyn, I'm not bashing on you. You're doing the best you can, but I'm letting you know that the infrastructure is insufficient. Period, and that needs to go into this message needs to go to your management. They need to know, and they need to make sure that if the customers paying for 1G, they need to get 1G during peak. And the customers paying for 200 or whatever the lowest, they need to get that during peak, period. All right, so please relay that to your executives and your management.
Absolutely, and I'll also give them your address. So you will get a call from corporate executive customer relations.
Thank you. And then the other question I want to ask is that this fiber to the home. Now, a lot of us are salivating. We are just drooling over Verizon Fios. We want fiber to the house. This cable internet is technology of 2 centuries ago. It's old. We need fiber. So my question to you is that this fiber to the house that you're referring to, is it actual fiber optic that comes into my house that is a glass fiber optic? Is that what it is?
I don't know if it's glass. I don't know. I'm not.
Fiber optic by definition is glass, but is it fiber optic that goes
It
into
is
your house?
fiber optic that goes from the pole to your home.
Okay, now, and so I will also send you my email address. I am looking forward to get that hopefully soon, because like I said, coaxial cable is technology of 2 centuries ago. We need to move beyond that. So, okay, thank you very much. That's all I have to say. And thank you, Mayor, for letting us Baskin Ridge residents crash a party. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dan. And Robin, I think we have one more. Is that correct?
We actually have a couple more that popped up, but give me 1 second.
I think Dottie
Donnelly.
Dottie Donnelly Brienza.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good evening. And thank you very much for hosting this call. I really appreciate you guys taking this initiative. So,
and Dottie, you are in Bedminster, right?
I'm in Bedminster, yes. So finally have a Bedminster person again on the line. I've been a resident for 18 years. This is my second go round, first time 10 years, second time eight years, both times on Sergeant Stoddard Court.
Okay.
And Marilyn, I appreciate you showing up here tonight, but I'm sorry, I'm super frustrated. I was really happy to hear Rick G. Rick, if you're still on the line, please get in touch with me in Bedminster, because I'm very happy to join your class action suit. This is not a COVID situation. This is not a since September situation. This is a more than 5 years long situation with Cablevision, Optimum, and now Altice. I've lived in the hills all this time. These issues are not new. My computer is wired. Let me say that again, Marilyn. My computer is wired directly, the Ethernet cable to the modem. I've had multiple modems provided by Altice. I've supplied my own modem. I have the highest end routers, 2 routers that you can buy to put in a home. I'm an executive. I rely on the phone. I've taken my phone off of Cablevision Altice because I can't rely on it. So I have AT&T for my phone, which costs me more, but I need to do that. So when my Zoom continually goes down, I'm at least still on the phone call with people. This situation is untenable. Altice, and prior to Altice, Cablevision, you guys have inherited a situation of fraud. This is absolute fraud, because you are continuing to advertise that people can get 100 service, 300 service, 1 gig service, and we've been paying for it and not receiving it. I've been doing an OCTA speed test on my computer at least twice a day for over 3 years now, on and off, keeping a log so that when a class action suit goes forward, I have my little log with all my OCTA speed tests. If anybody else doesn't know about the speed test app, you can download it from the App Store and do the speed test yourself to see that you're not getting the speed that you're paying for. And then you can also join the class action lawsuit that hopefully will be kicking off here shortly. I don't think that being nice anymore is the way to go, because you guys have a monopoly and you have not been listening to us as customers. I've been paying for 300 megabytes for over 5 years. I refuse to upgrade to 1 gig because I'm not even getting 300. Today, this morning, okay, my upload was 12.1. My download was 87.9. And then not only is that happening, the service is intermittent. So I'll get cut off on a call, cut off on a Zoom, video goes down. I constantly get messages on my computer. Your internet is unstable. Your internet is unstable. Do you want to shut it off? Et cetera, et cetera. It's not okay. Technicians have been out to my home multiple times. They've told me that cables need to be replaced and that they'll get somebody to send a truck out to dig up the yard and put in new cables. Nobody ever comes. So I wait a few weeks, I wait a few months, I call again. I work full time, and my second full-time job has been to be on the phone with Cablevision, Optimum, now Altice. So I'm sorry, I appreciate.
I totally understand your frustration. I absolutely understand your frustration. I have been with the company 4 years. In the 4 years that I've been with the company, I have not heard any complaints from the community. Trust me, allow me to take this issue back to the company and come back to you, come back to the mayor, come back to the community. Give me an opportunity to show you that I'm coming to you in earnest to resolve issues.
Marilyn, listen, you seem like a super nice person. I appreciate your hard work. I'm giving you one chance. That's it. Because this is not, you don't get three strikes. Hang on, please don't interrupt me.
Give me the one chance. Just
Marilyn,
give me the one
please.
chance.
This is my airtime and I am speaking.
And I'm saying, just give me the one chance.
I am speaking. And Marilyn, I appreciate it, but I'm a customer and I am speaking. So please do not interrupt me. I've already been 1 strike, 2 strike, 3 strikes. So you get one chance. And I'd like to know, how do I and all the other customers on this call in Bedminster, and I'll throw in my Basking Ridge neighbors too, because they're right on my property line and they're nice folks. How do we get reimbursed for all the months, all the years I've paid for higher level service? What other business charges customers for a product that they never deliver and get away with it? This is fraud. I want to know, how do I get reimbursed for all the months I've overpaid? I'd also like to know how much longer you're going to take the customer's money without fixing these issues, because seriously, the next steps are not to wait, but to file a class action lawsuit. That is what is happening. That's the level of frustration in the hills. And for those of you who haven't been online recently, because you can't get the service, just tonight, 1 gig is going for $55 a month. That's what Altice is advertising. Yet if you were to call them as a current customer, that is not the price you're going to get. So I'm sorry, Marilyn, but this is like truth serum tonight. You need to take this back to your CEO and your company and get them out here with their cable trucks to put in the fiber optics toot suite. Because I've got 5 years of bills, 5 years of bills, and 5 years of service records and 5 years of UCTA speed tests. Thank you very much again, Mayor. I appreciate all you're doing, Larry, Colin, for pulling this together. You've got a ton of frustrated community members in Bedminster and obviously in Basking Ridge as well. And I think we should band together with Basking Ridge. Money talks.
Thank you, Dottie. And I think that that sentiment is one that I think we've heard from the beginning of this call to to now. And that, yeah, I get it. It's absolutely frustrating, and it's something that this is the reason we're having this call. And frankly, once again, I know that Marilyn is bearing the brunt of it, and she is not in charge of those pricing schemes or the pricing structure, but she is the liaison that we have. And just as Marilyn had talked about, take this up her chain so it's both on the engineering side and then on the pricing side. And so we do expect action. And just as Marilyn said, give her one time, right? So that's why we're here. Robin.
We have one more from Bedminster resident Mitchell Sewell.
Mitchell Sewell is, let's see, Mitchell, if you can unmute him.
He's on.
I think I'm there. Am I there?
You might actually have been the instigator with me on putting this together about 1.5 years ago.
Well, thank you for your recollection, and thank you to you and to Colin for putting this together.
Yeah, so everyone knows, Mr. Sewell came up to me. We were doing a presentation with Mayor Baldessari. This is, geez, I guess maybe 1+ year ago, I guess. And Mr. Sewell came up to me as a Bedminster resident up in Hills Highlands, up at the community center up there. And we were just entertaining about what's going on in Basking Ridge, in Burridge Township, and from the Bedminster side. And it was Mr. Sewell who raised the issue of the optimum service and the problems he was having with service and both delivery and customer care. So, Mr. Sewell, it's kind of fitting that you get the last comment tonight.
Well, I thank you so much. The thing that I wanted to say, and I apologize if I missed someone saying this earlier, because I'll be honest with you, I was shoveling snow all day. And after I took my shower and laid down, I was like, oh, crap, I hope I didn't miss the Zoom meeting. And obviously I did. But my concern is the fact that we get these increases to our bills. And as everyone has mentioned, first of all, the service is not on par with what they want. And then they have the audacity to come to you and basically stick a gun in your face and say, oh, by the way, turn your pockets inside out because we need some more money from you. And it just is ridiculous, especially when you see, oh, if you want to get TV, telephone, and internet, we'll charge you, and again, I'm just playing off the top of my head here, we'll charge you $45. But if you want internet alone, oh, that's $90. You know, it's totally asinine. I mean, if you went to any restaurant and said, I just want to have a hamburger, they wouldn't say, well, we're going to charge you $10 for the hamburger. But if you want the hamburger, the salad, and the unlimited drinks, you know, it's going to be $5. So it's an upside down thing as far as that. And then the fact that it appears that we are hostages, and with the exception of this meeting tonight, there hasn't really been a way for us to say, hey, can we get some service for our money? And how is it that you're able just to keep coming back at us and saying you're going to raise the price? That's the thing, that, and this mumbo jumbo with the line maintenance fees or whatever they, you know, nonsense that they put in the bills, trying to justify the continuing increase the rates. And again, Bedminster and Bernards Township both have a wide variety of residents, and you know, whether you're on fixed income or what have you, how is it you can justify a utility increasing its rates astronomically in this, you know, these situations? It's just it's without merit. So I apologize for not being better prepared with comments, but I think you get my idea that it's just frustration with the billing and the fact that as has been said earlier, if you want to get a deal, you have to be not a customer. And the situation we find ourselves in many of these neighborhoods is you don't have an alternative. So.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Sewell.
Thank you so much. And thank you, gentlemen, for your work. And Robin, as always, thank you.
So I do want to turn over to Marilyn. So Marilyn, thank you again for you took the arrows. You knew it was coming, but the sentiment is obviously widespread, and we have to work with Altice on what those next steps are. There's the pricing structure, there's the delivery system, there's the network upgrades. There's a whole lot of stuff out there. And it does require some feedback. Unlike the water company or the electric companies, which are public utilities, the regulation of cable providers is a little bit different. They have largely a monopoly without being a public utility or regulated as a public utility under state law. Mr. Sewell had mentioned, you know, there's no competition. Well, there's a little bit of competition, not right now, but coming down the road. And to some extent, I think that does put the pressure on the cable companies to up their game, on pricing, to up their game on service, to up their game on delivery of product. And that ultimate competition is probably going to be in the form of 5G. So there's some maneuverings that we expect to see from the cable company to hold on to and keep those customers, keep them happy, because 2, 3, 4 years, there might be an option. So it's something that from a business standpoint, I would imagine that Altice is concerned about, that they want to make you guys happy. They want to keep you as paying customers and keep you connected to their systems. And and perhaps that explains why Marilyn is so gracious in her appearance tonight, and looking forward to further cooperation with Marilyn and Samantha as we move forward. So Marilyn, one of the things that I would like to do is to talk about our next steps between Bedminster Township Committee and Altice. And if it's convenient, I can certainly reach out to Mayor Fields over in Bernard Township. And perhaps that's something that the two towns we can work together on presenting a working relationship with Altice as we move forward. If that would be more convenient for you. We're talking about, I imagine, similar nodes. And if we're talking about similar nodes, then our infrastructure is the same. So then rather than having to do this in two separate municipalities, we do this with one combined group with the two towns. Marilyn, is that something you think that would work?
I'm happy to convene a meeting with both towns and the engineers. If very well may or may not, I'm not sure. I just with the I would have to talk to the engineers to see if the nodes are servicing both towns or not. But we can happy to have that conversation, because typically a node might service about, let's say, 200 to 300 people. So I'm not sure if the nodes that are in question are the same or different.
Okay, that's certainly something that if you could reach out to your engineering group, and that's something that we could then evaluate whether or not keep them as two separate conversations or it's something that we should combine, we can do it too. We're, from the Bedminster side, we're ready to work with you in getting those improvements. And if that's going to, be similar to Bernard's, ready to do that as well.
Happy to do it.
Okay, Marilyn, any last comments? And for anyone who's sticking around for the rest of the Township Committee meeting, probably won't be as fascinating as this. We're going to take a break after Marilyn gives her last remarks, and then we will come back to the rest of our Township Committee meeting in about 5 minutes. So Marilyn, you've got the floor.
So I'm here because the company does value the community, and Mayor and Colin, I'm certainly looking forward to working with you guys to drill down and make sure that any issues that exist are resolved in a timely fashion. So I'm happy to assist. And again, I've provided my email address, so I will certainly take direct communications from the community and escalate those and make sure they're resolved.
Great, thank you, Marilyn. And thank you everyone for participating tonight. I think both Colin and I were taking a whole lot of notes. Yep. And so we've got some things to talk about. And then Marilyn, I will reach out to you along with Colin, and we'll see what we can do to set up a working group to move things forward.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Robin and Judy, what we'll do is it's now 9:06, so we've been at it for about 2 hours. Let's take a 5-minute break. Anyone, including our friends from Basking Ridge and Burns Township, you're more than willing to stay for the rest of our meeting, but we will come back to you in 5 minutes, and we'll proceed from there. Okay.
Back on recording.
Okay.
Okay, it is 9:12, and we've ended our session with Marilyn Davis from Altice. We'll continue with the rest of the Bedminster Township Committee meeting. Quick comment that Robin Ray mentioned to both Colin and I in this little recess we had was that she had to admit and readmit some of the folks who showed up on the Altice situation. Mm-hmm. And we can only imagine that's probably a reflection of intermittent and poor internet connection. So certainly this is an issue of concern. And, COVID's been doing a lot of things, right? It's been magnifying, it's been accelerating the natural progression of many industries. And this is one of them, right? It focuses on the weak points, right? If you're home and you have inadequate internet pre-COVID, well, your situation didn't get better. Your situation got worse. And it's not just your wireless, it's also your wired feed as well. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting what COVID brings out. And we are hopeful, certainly, that working with Altice and some community members and perhaps with the folks from Leonard Township, that we can bring some much needed improvement to the systems. Okay, so we'll go on with the rest of the meeting, and the rest of the meeting starts with public comment. So if there are any members of the public that wish to make a comment, it'll be similar to what we just went through on the session with Marilyn Davis, which is go down to the participant little drop down or menu at the bottom, participant, click on raise hand. That does not mean you wave your hand at the screen, but you click on the raise hand option, and we'll ask you to give your name and address and your public comment.
And if you're on the phone, hit *9 so we can be aware that you're looking to ask a question.
Oh yeah, we do have I think
Mayor, we have Jeffrey Leonard.
Jeffrey Leonard.
Hello, I'm back. A couple of things, and you already know this. I wanted to thank you guys for installing the new speed limit sign on Robertson Drive. It went in on Friday, and we've gotten a lot of feedback on it, and I think it's a great thing. Very much appreciated from Hills Village North. Another quick comment I wanted to make, and I think I had mentioned this before. We're having a lot of lighting issues on Robertson, but I mentioned some of it to Colin last week. And I just wanted you to be aware that one whole side on the wood duck side has completely been out now for a couple of weeks. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention.
So it's we're out completely on the wood duck side, wood duck pond side.
Yeah.
Jeff, I had mentioned this because I had gotten a heads up as well from another resident in your area, and John was going to go out there post snowstorm and see what's going on, whether or not it's an issue with the timer or another issue. You also mentioned that they are expecting receipt of replacement poles and heads. So, and Doug can speak to this better than I can, but that they will start deploying those as well.
Okay.
Doug, do you need, let's see, I think we got to take Doug off mute.
Ask him.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, those, Jeff, the polls are on order. Last time I spoke with John, he was placing that order. We had put the order, we had given him the green light for that, subject to the buy-in from the Hills Masters. We shared it with everybody. We got the green light. So that's in process. I will, pardon me, I'll follow up with John. He's busy, as we know, clearing the streets right now.
Yeah, but nobody can do anything now. Yeah.
yeah. But I will get with him this week and figure out where that is in process, and I'll communicate that with you.
I appreciate it. I just wanted another quick mention too. I found out this week, I don't know if Jackie Weber's still on the line, but Wood Duck is also going to be doing a replacement of all of the lamps within their neighborhood. I don't know what fixture they're using. And when I found that out, I contacted the president and gave him that same fixture, Doug, that you had provided to us. But I don't know whether they're using it or not. So, but I just wanted to.
It would be great if they would, because it's the LED part of, it's the LED sort of sister pole to the ones that are out there. So we want to try to keep the continuity and make the, keep the character of the neighborhoods there, but we want to update that lighting fixture.
I would completely agree, and I told the president that, but it didn't sound like that's what they wanted to do. But it's out of my hands at that point. So,
okay.
But all right, thank you.
I'll get back with you with that this week, Jeff. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Doug. Thanks, everybody.
Question for Doug. The lights being out on the wood duck pond side, is that a pole issue? Is that an electricity delivery problem?
That is the area that's our biggest problem spot, because what I've been told is that some of the electrical feeds are coming off of the Bedminster 1 facility, the commercial buildings that are out there at the end of Robertson towards Hills Drive. So it's a big question mark as to where this is all being fed to. So it's somewhat fortuitous, because I think the idea was that if we could just do this in one, stretch and do multiple polls together, we can true up the feed question. But that is a huge question mark that I don't even think that we know at this point. We have to just trace the lines back.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I think Jeff might have. Did you have something to add, Jeff? Hang on, you're muted.
Hold on.
Yeah, just a quick note. I think some of the feeds are coming from wood duck buildings, because that's the way they originally were wired. So, and I think John may already know that, but I just wanted to point that out, that if you can't figure out where the circuit is coming from, I think a lot of it is underground breaks too. But there are breakers in nearby buildings, and I think that that's where some of those lights, and for the ones that are closer to artillery and the pond itself, I think are coming from wood duct.
Okay.
The electricity. So, all right. Thanks.
Okay, Robin, next.
There does not appear to be any further questions.
Okay.
Any further comments?
So no more raise hands, no more *9. Okay, we'll proceed with the rest of the meeting. And the rest of the meeting starts with the approval of minutes. We have two sets of minutes. The January 19, 2021 regular Township Committee meeting via Zoom, and the January 19th, 2021 executive session meeting via Zoom. Are there any comments or questions regarding those minutes? Doug is waving hello. He's showing us his fingers.
I'm sorry. I don't know why he keeps coming out of that. Sorry, it's not undoing.
There he is.
Yeah.
You are. There you are, Doug.
Thank you. No, I just wanted to be unmuted.
Oh, you just wanted so that we could hear you.
Yeah, well, I would need to, if I need to vote on this stuff, I should be heard, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
Maybe not.
Okay, so if there are no more questions or comments concerning those minutes, Doug, may we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you, Doug.
You're welcome.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Permits and raffles, we have one permit. That's a social affair permit at Fiddler's Elbow Country Club on June 21, 2021 from 10:30 a.m. to 8 o'clock p.m. to benefit Special Olympics of New Jersey. Any questions or comments regarding that permit? Seeing none, may we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
We have a second?
Do we have a second on that?
We have a second?
Gina can't say anything. Renee can't say anything.
Oh, I thought I heard Gina.
Renee, she said.
Second. I couldn't unmute. Now I'm good.
Okay. We'll go to monthly report discussions by subcommittee chair, Committeeman Stevenson.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everybody. DPW, obviously, got our hands full with the snow, but I think it's going very, very well. As always, John and his crew's been out there since last night. They'll continue to work and get our streets plowed. I've got to put a question into John. I don't know if their Christmas trees are still sitting around, but we have to try to go around and collect those. Are we still doing that? Do we still offer that? I thought we did.
We haven't done
Sorry?
We haven't done that in years.
Oh, yeah, we have. No?
Nope. Nope. It's
People
done.
have been asking for it, so I don't know.
Residents are welcome to bring it down to our yard and they can drop them off, but we don't pick up.
Okay, that's what I'll tell the folks then. And Store Press, we've got our meeting coming up this month, so nothing on that. And just wanted to share that, and Colin, perhaps you want to, expand on a little bit when you speak, but Colin, John, and I went out to Knox Park, which is the park behind Fresh Market that goes up back sort of behind Pluckerman Park, for the installation potentially of a little library up there, a book exchange. So we sort of staked out the ground there where it might be some good places to sit that structure, and we're going to wait for John, I guess, to get back to us about what the what the structure looks like. It's a donation from somebody in the township who would like to get that initiative started. So just once we have a little bit more information about specifically where it would go, what it's going to look like, the size and that sort of thing, we'll bring it up. But just wanted to give you the heads up that happened this past week. And I'm continuing to talk with the folks about Pluckerman Park. We might have some significant site work there and some upgrades to work with, but more to come on that. That's sort of making its way through. We have permission from the current ownership group to talk with the prospective purchasers. That's a good thing. And we'll continue, to work with them and see if we can put something together there.
Great. Thank you, Doug.
Thank you.
From the DPW comment, I'll just make, saw John Mance himself driving a plow on my street. And yes, the mayor gets his driveway plowed in. So thank you, John Mance, for just as after I finished shoveling, having to go back out and reshovel for all the plow snow. So good job, John. But guys are out there. The roads are, I drove down here from my house. Hillside was fine, in good shape. Somerville Road was in good shape. A lot of work. It's a lot of snow to take care of. And our guys were out there from last evening all the way through. So thank you to everyone at DPW. Great job. Committeeman Hickey.
Thank you, Mayor. And just to reiterate that, I was coming home from ShopRite yesterday and I saw the Bedminster truck driven by John Mance pulling onto Rattlesnake at about 2:30 in the afternoon. So he's been at it since then, and his crew. So people don't realize it is a 7x24 job right now, cleaning that snow up. So thank you, John. Thank you, DPW. Thank you, Doug. Just a quick update, Board of Health. We had a meeting week before last where a number of applications were reviewed. More importantly, I want to remind residents that the county is open a call center to answer questions about COVID-19 and vaccinations. They can be reached on 908-231-7155. That information is also on the Bedminster Township Facebook page. So they are receiving calls and answering questions. I know we've all received calls on the Township Committee from folks who are eligible to receive the vaccine, but can't schedule an appointment. We hear you. Unfortunately, the state has been having problems with both supply of the vaccine as well as their scheduling software. You heard the governor address that directly today. They're hopefully get the schedule back online as soon as possible. And obviously, as the vaccine supply opens up, they'll be able to make additional appointments. But unfortunately, we do not control the scheduler or who gets allocated vaccine. So I just want to bring that up. And again, if you have questions, call out to 908-231-7155. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Committeewoman Moreski.
Good evening, Mayor. Hi, Colin. Good evening, everybody. I'm staying here in my house, even though we do have all our streets plowed in Crestmont. They've been plowing all night long, so it's wonderful, but I was not venturing out. I know John is excellent at his job, but still not going. So real quick, the EC has a meeting this Wednesday, and they're having a special guest speaker, Mara Tippett, who's a watershed scientist with Raritan Headwaters, and she's going to do a presentation on well testing. And just so you can put this part on your calendar, Raritan Headwaters will be doing their 31st annual stream cleanup on Saturday, April 17th from 9 to 12. As we get more details on the cleanup, we'll let you know. The Zoom link for Wednesday's EC meeting is already posted on the town website if anybody wants to join us. And my other information is we have a new project that we're kicking off. A couple months ago, we were given a presentation by Susan Hopper and Julia Waldron at the EC meeting. They were looking for a location in Bedminster to put a communal garden. So to start the process with the town, Gina Fernandez and Bill Rosen from the Rec Committee, myself and Dawn March from EC, Robin Ray and John Mance, if he can make it, we'll be meeting this Thursday to discuss the only location that seems to be appropriate, and that's on the Jacobus Vanderveer property down the far end of the field away from the house. So we'll be discussing initial things like pricing for setting up water for the location, bed development, fencing, and the development of a gardening committee. We'll be bringing, this little committee will bring its ideas to the TC for approval to proceed. And if we get that, what our next step would be is to develop a gardening committee that would include obviously Susan and Julia, that will be responsible for organizing the gardeners and the maintenance of the site. So as plans progress, we will report back to you guys and let you know what we found out, how much it's going to cost, and if this really is a feasible project for us.
Great.
And that's all I have.
Great. Thank you, Renee. Committeewoman Fernandez.
Hold on just one second, Mayor. We're on our mute problem.
Oh,
Okay, can you hear me?
we can hear you.
Okay, good. Yeah, I couldn't unmute. So I just want to give you all a rec update. The Rec Advisory Committee appointed Bill Rosen as the chair and Martin Johansson as the vice chair. They've tallied all the survey results and will most likely have a presentation for the Township Committee at our next meeting, February 15th, hopefully. The Rec Committee also agreed to their 2 representatives to the farmers market will be Bill Rosen and Frank Pascali. We were, as far as the senior program goes, we were awaiting a phone number for our seniors to be able to call to schedule their vaccine appointments. It's nearly impossible for the elderly to be going online and refreshing. So New Jersey has rolled out a number, and we will be providing a pamphlet to our senior residents shortly, hopefully, paper pamphlet with an abundance of practical information for them, including info regarding our replacement of the senior van with an even better alternative through the county. And like Renee said, there'll be a meeting this Thursday with the Environmental Commission and the rec chairs and the TC liaisons regarding possible locations for a tentative community garden. And that's all.
Great. Thank you, Gina. So I'm just going to report real quickly on Land Use Board. Land Use Board has a meeting coming up this week. Some things of interest is that there's a referral from the Township Committee to the Land Use Board on consistency with the master plan. That's regarding a new stormwater ordinance. The stormwater ordinance is a requirement that is essentially being dictated by New Jersey DEP, and DEP is asking that all municipalities update their stormwater ordinances to comply with the state requirements. Our town engineer, Paul Ferrero, will be making a presentation at the Land Use Board meeting, and I will also make a request that Mr. Ferrero do a similar presentation at the public hearing for that ordinance, which is February 15th. Land Use Board also has an application on Thursday, which is for it's actually a D variance on Main Street. As a D variance, Committeeman Hickey and I are not eligible, so we will participate at the meeting for the consistency determination on the ordinance, and then the rest of the meeting will proceed without us. And the Land Use Board is also proceeding with a master plan amendment for February 11th, and that is a master plan revision that will work in concert with the settlement agreement with Fair Share Housing regarding fulfillment of Bedminster's affordable housing settlement with their outstanding obligation for this last round of affordable housing needs. And farmers market. So now that we actually have the full complement of the farmers market committee identified with the reps from EC being appointed and reps from the recreation department, will be meeting. Robin, I'll reach out to you separately. We'll schedule a meeting for the farmers market. And Judy, we will set up a meeting with the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee, and we'll just need to coordinate times with Heather Mahali from CGP&H to get that going. So let's look to do that in the middle of February. And that's all I have on this snowy Monday night. Ms. Sullivan, may we please have the administrator's report?
I don't have much to report tonight, other than the fact, unfortunately, due to the snow, our offices were closed today. Yet to be determined about tomorrow, maybe a delayed opening at 10, but that'll be determined first thing after I get to talk with the chief and John Mance. So hopefully we'll be back in service tomorrow afternoon.
Okay. So we have one ordinance to introduce tonight, which is ordinance 2021-001.
Actually, that was introduced already. It's just on there that we're carrying it to the next meeting.
Okay. So this is already introduced. So we have no introduction of ordinances tonight. We have no public hearing of ordinances tonight. We do have a consent agenda for resolution of routine nature. Someone's barking. Someone's barking is now muted. Does anyone have a request to pull any of the items off the consent agenda? Seeing none, may we have a motion to approve the two resolutions on the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
This will be a roll call vote. Mr. Stevenson?
Aye.
Mr. Hickey?
Aye.
Ms. Moreski?
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez?
Supposed to read them.
Aye.
Mayor Jacobs?
Aye.
Thank you all.
And we have one resolution that is not on the consent agenda, which is Resolution 2021-024, which authorizes the award of a contract to Whitmer Public Safety Group, Inc. for the purchase of self-contained breathing apparatus for the Far Hills Bedminster Fire Department. Ms. Sullivan.
If you remember, we met with the fire chief from Far Hills Bedminster last fall. He brought to us their capital needs to purchase the SCBA's for the department. They have a 10-year life, and they are at the end of their 10-year life. So the purchase is being shared with the Borough of Far Hills, since we share fire department service with them. Due to size of the two towns, Bedminster is 80% and Far Hills is 20%. So that will be funded by the two towns. We did have bids, and the bids came back in, and then this is a resolution to award the contract following those bids.
Now, so these are expenditures that we authorized during last year's budget. So this is
Yes, this was authorized and funded through capital funding from the 2020 budget. So this is no impact on the 2021 budget.
Any questions or comments regarding the resolution? Seeing none, may we have a motion to approve Resolution 2021-024?
So moved.
Second.
Again, roll call vote. Mr. Stevenson?
Aye.
Mr. Hickey?
Aye.
Ms. Moreski?
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez?
Aye.
Mayor Jacobs?
Aye.
Thank you.
May we have a motion to approve the bill list pending review of individual invoices?
So moved.
Second.
Again, roll call vote for this. Mr. Stevenson?
Aye.
Mr. Hickey?
Aye.
Ms. Moreski?
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez?
Aye.
Mayor Jacobs?
Aye.
Thank you all.
Okay, we'll move on to new business. And the one matter under new business is the Bedminster Senior Van Alternative Program. Do we have any update on this issue?
Actually, I'd like Robin Ray to give you a little report. She's been working on this with Somerset County.
Okay, sure. So we,
Robin, you're not
actually,
mic.
it's a good outcome. It's on.
Okay.
It's on. It's a good outcome. We reached out to Somerset County Transportation, and they've put together a proposal for consideration that provides an alternative to our former senior van program. It's ADA van service for up to 14 people. We're going to start out with a Wednesday trip to Chester Shopping Mall, which is on 206 in Chester. There's approximately 40 shops that are there. They will pick all the residents up at their homes that are eligible to ride the senior van. At 9 o'clock, they'll pick them up, and then they will return them home by 1 o'clock. So it's door-to-door service, and the contract price that they're proposing is very reasonable. It comes under what our program had cost in the past.
So how is that program going to work? So at this point, the county program charges residents, but in this case, Bedminster is picking up the charge that the county would otherwise apply to the residents.
That's correct. So the
So
van
it's-
service will be free of charge for our residents.
So the town of Bedminster will pick up the expense that the county would otherwise charge to those residents.
Yes.
So for our residents, it's essentially free of charge. What do we need to do to move forward with this, and what do we need to do to let folks know that this is the new program?
Sure. So they've proposed a February 1st start date, which was obviously too late since we're just discussing this today. But the next proposed start date is March 1st. So we just need to review the contract and engage.
There's a contract?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's a contract price. There's a cost per day of $150.52 per day with a not to exceed for the year. And the daily rate covers the driver's salary and fringe benefits for the 4 hours of service. So it's pretty straightforward, but it's still nonetheless is a contract.
So if we get the consensus from the Township Committee to move forward with this, we'll have a contract ready to vote on at the next meeting?
Yes, correct. Okay. So that works out well. I will tell you the van is great. The residents will be calling and scheduling directly with Somerset County, so that takes that out of our hands, which is wonderful. And the other aspect is that the van will go out even if there's only one person that wants to go. So there's always going to be van service. We don't need to have a minimum just of one, which is great.
And Chester Spring Shopping Center is the Chester ShopRite.
Correct.
And all the other stores up.
About 40 stores in total.
Okay. All right. Any questions or comments for Robin regarding this alternative?
No, I just think it's just, thank you, Robin, for looking into it. I think it's a great, replacement for what we had that wasn't working and the numbers weren't there. So it looks like it's a win-win for everybody.
Great. So we can just do a quick poll as we go around the room. We don't have a contract in front of us, but do we just have a consensus that this is the way to proceed? So we'll start with Committeewoman Fernandez.
Yes, absolutely. This is the way I'd like to proceed. And then the next steps after being approved is getting, like I said, a flyer or a pamphlet out to our senior residents, not only with the transportation information, but also in addition with some other information that's pertinent to all of our seniors here in town. So I definitely 100% support the initiative.
Great. Thank you, Gina. Committeewoman Moreski.
What Gina said.
All right. We'll certainly take that. Committee.
Absolutely agree. And I just saw Robin Ray flash a flyer. So we'll have it ready to go. I think that's awesome. The more we get the word out, I think that's a great opportunity for our seniors to take advantage of.
And Committeeman Stevenson.
Yeah, of course. I think it's a great, again, replacement for what we had. And it sounds like, no minimum numbers is nice because I know that was part of our issue. We didn't have enough folks to justify it. So this is a positive development. Let's just hope that folks feel good about getting on a bus together and that we can do it in a safe way.
Right. Agreed.
Larry, I just have one quick question because I don't know much about the old program, but I'm just, now that it's really snowing outside and it's cold, I'm just concerned about the 4-hour window with that van. Does that mean somebody gets picked up at 9 and then they don't get picked back up till 1? What if they're only going to the grocery store for a half an hour? What do they do for the other 3.5?
Robin, do you know?
I can speak to that. So it does take some time, depending upon where all the residents live, to pick them up. So they start at 9 o'clock and then they'll go to all the different residences to pick people up. So by the time they get to Chester, it's probably not going to be until around 9:45. So then they'll have a opportunity. They'll probably leave. However long it takes to pick everybody up is however long they're going to need to take on the back end to drop everybody off. So that window of actual shopping time will be reduced.
Okay, because they're, in a nice day and in a different world, they could go sit at, one of the coffee shops and wait for the van, but now you can't really do that. So, but they need some time to go shopping, so that's fine.
Well, is there a possibility that the van stays there and they could just sit on the van like with heat on in the van so that they're warm while they wait for everybody to finish? Or
van driver stays on site the entire time.
Yeah.
They're
Okay. Yeah, that works good. Does the van have Wi-Fi?
Too soon. Too soon.
Sorry.
So, Robin, if you can go back to the county, get a contract. As soon as you get the contract, forward it over to Mr. Bellardo. Yes. So that John can look at it, and if there's any questions or comments regarding that contract, we can have those worked out in time to get this program up and going for March 1st. Okay, new business, that's it. Any other matters for new business?
Quick question for new business. Since we're focusing a lot now on Knox Park between Pluckerman Park and the little library, and I walk the dog back there almost every day, and now there's a hole out there with a cone stuck in it. How would I go proposing that that park be repaved? It needs some love on that pavement. It's starting to crack and it's starting to dent. And if that's a place where we have our folks who are living in Pluckerman Park, if that's where, we'd like them to take a stroll now and again, it needs to be a little more even. It'd be hard. It's hard with walkers and stuff like that.
All right. Well, I would say, Renee, that you should reach out directly to John Mance.
Okay, I will do that.
Reach out to John, and since it's part of the park, the paving would run through the open space fund, so that wouldn't hit general revenues. That would be, any expense would be dedicated to the open space recreation fund, and there's certainly money there for that. Just working that out with John and getting that on a paving schedule once there's consensus there. And then when John talks about it, he would talk to Doug.
So one of the issues that is in play that can parallel and dovetail into this is that the Pluckerman Park site, is anything but smooth, right? It's like walking on the moon over there. So one of the things that we're trying to do is to get that potentially new operator and or owner to commit to doing a lot of site work to leveling that out. And when I was up there with Colin last week, we noticed it as well, but it was really the brick or cobblestone walkway up into the park that was bumpy and uneven.
And that doesn't even connect all the way to the paved part, the brickwork.
Yeah.
I don't believe.
So, maybe those two initiatives can dovetail together and make that more walkable for everybody.
Yeah,
That'd be great.
This park actually physically connects into Pluckerman Park, the senior community. I think it just runs right behind those units, but I don't believe there's an actual physical connection. So for any of the residents from that,
there is.
they have to actually go up that little, that grassed little slope there and actually then connect to the Knox Park walkway.
I believe half of the walkway is brickwork and the other half is pavement.
It's bumpy. It's not good. It's ruddy and bumpy, and it's not stable and right for folks that have walkers and issues trying to be mobile and ambulatory. It's a problem. So we're aware of that certainly, and it's just one of the things that we've got on our list of hopeful gets at that site. So point is that those are they're in very close proximity. That we should probably be coordinating that to the extent that that's where we want to go.
Okay. I'll talk to John.
Okay. All right. Any other matters for new business? Old business, COVID-19. We've already covered the status update, and Committeeman Hickey talked about the efforts at the county and the state. We're going through with vaccination. Pluckerman Park, Committeeman Stevenson talked about some perhaps ongoing discussions between the current owners and a potential purchaser, and maybe that comes to fruition, maybe not, but if there are improvements that we can squeeze out of that transaction, we will certainly pursue those. JCP&L outages, Committeeman Hickey.
Thank you, Mayor. I almost hesitate to talk about it tonight in the middle of a blizzard, and the power has been staying on. Good knock on wood. I just want to mention that, over the last year or so, we've discussed the fact that JCP&L had earmarked about $97 million for an 18-month capital improvement program. We even appeared before the BPU to advocate for these investments in the wake of persistent local power outages, which, Mayor, you mentioned earlier in the meeting. Well, we have some good news. JCP&L has installed over 1,700 automated reclosing devices on power lines throughout the territory. You may recall these are like circuit breakers. So if there's a momentary line fault, the service can be restored automatically as opposed to necessitating a truck roll, which means time. So that's good news for us. They've also installed technology that allows power to be rerouted around damaged equipment so that service can be restored more quickly. We have instances right here in Bedminster. There were 2 transformers that were upgraded along Hills Drive just last fall to enable that power rerouting to occur, and again, to lessen the amount and severity of outages. And finally, they've done far more aggressive tree trimming over the past 18 months, which will continue. Our PPAC substation is next on the schedule for March, so you'll start to see tree trimming work begin on Black River Road, Larger Cross, Lamington, Deer Haven, Ski Hill, Hillside, Fairview, and routes 202 and 206, just to name a few. So work is proceeding.
Good. And so just to follow up on the switches that were replaced that were affecting 2 communities in Bedminster, were those 2 communities, were any of those the ones that were specifically at risk previously? So we're talking about looking at Four Oaks, we're talking about which neighborhoods were.
So it was for the neighborhoods closer to Washington Valley Road.
Okay.
So we had suffered significant outages during the tropical storm. So it's Village Green, it's Crestmont, it's that whole area down on that side of the hills. So that should help them restore much more quickly because they recognize that was a vulnerability that had suffered a lot of power outages in 2020. So those have been upgraded. And we actually accelerate the schedule to get those upgraded.
Great. And that's the power of actually working with the utility, working with them, helping prioritize, identifying issues that sometimes only float this high up in the scheme or in the network, and they don't get up to people where they can actually make decisions. So thank you for that update. Township committee comments. We do have an executive session, and we do have an item that we may be taking action on following the executive session. So after we go through township committee comments, we will adjourn to executive session. We will discuss one matter. We'll actually discuss 2 matters, but one of those matters may result in us acting on a resolution. So we'll come back to public session. So if anyone is interested in sticking around for that, please do so. So let's now start with township committee comments, and we will start with Committeeman Stevenson.
Thank you again, Mayor. Just wanted to say thanks to all the residents that came out, both Bedminster and our neighbors. I think the comments that were on the chat room were spot on in some respects, and that is that, if we've seen here in the COVID environment, the internet and the ability to get internet is no longer just entertainment, right? It's now moving more into a necessity, and it's affecting people's bottom line and their dollars. So we hear that, we're aware of it, and kudos to you, Mayor, and Colin, for putting this together. But all 5 of us are committed to getting answers to these problems, and we also understand the reality that there may not be too many other options right here, right now in the hills. So folks don't want to hear it'll be better in 2-3 years, right? We've got a little bit of prodding to do. I think we've made good headway with JCP&L. I think we can do the same with Altice here. And I think that it starts with getting the right connections. We've done that. And, Marilyn certainly took some bumps today, but, hopefully the idea is that she goes back and conveys to her cohorts that this is an issue. They've got to put it up on their radar screen. And, to the folks that are out there, we are committed to it, and we'll stay after it because it matters. And, that's a good first step, but certainly a long way to go. But good job putting that all together. Let's, hopefully we can get some headway. But that's my comment. Thanks, everybody. We hear what you're saying, and we will do everything we can for you.
Great. Thank you. Committeeman Hickey.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, and Doug, just to dovetail with your comments, you're absolutely right. This is just a good first step. We got their attention tonight. And, you know, I know Jeff Leonard's out there and he can attest to the fact that now the real grind work begins, where you got to go and get down to the level of what technical issues are causing the majority of the problems and just iterate and iterate again and again to figure out and chase them down the ground. So that's the real work that starts tomorrow. I also want to recognize somebody who was not a resident of Bedminster, was a big part of our community. Kevin Walsh passed away unexpectedly over the holidays. And if that name isn't familiar to you, well, he was the friendly UPS guy who always had a smile and always could spare a moment to chat. Word spread on social media of his passing recently, and it seems like everyone, whoever encountered him, had a positive experience or a special memory. For me, it was talking Jet football. We would lament over the fact that my Jets, once again, could never seem to win. Yeah, someone said on Facebook, the world was a better place with him in it. I just want to extend my condolences to his family, let them know how beloved he was in his home away from home. Kevin, you will be sorely missed. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Committeewoman Mareski.
She's muted.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say thank you to you and Colin and our residents for this evening. I noticed that we had over 100 people successfully on our Zoom meeting. So we saw at the last meeting, we had a lot of participants and we weren't able to hold them. And now we have the capability to do so. And it's just another example of how Bedminster really listens to their residents and then follows up. So I'm really proud of all you guys and happy to be a part of it. And everybody stay safe tonight getting home.
Thank you. Committeewoman Fernandez.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Yes, I just want to reiterate what everyone's saying, that, you know, such an important topic because the world has changed to virtual in many ways. People are working from home, teaching from home like myself, learning from home. And I want to thank the community for coming out and letting Maryland know their concerns. I want to thank Maryland for coming out to communicate with our residents, you know, and providing her email address so that she can follow up with them, and just understanding the importance of properly working technology and needing the need to come up with a plan. So thank you for putting that all together. I definitely want to thank John Mance and our DPW crew for their phenomenal job cleaning all this snow. How much snow do you think is out there? It's like 2 feet of snow. I keep going out every 2 hours to shovel. It's crazy. But, you know, I work in Union County, where the taxes are way higher than we have. And it just can't compare to the quality of work cleaning our streets here in Bedminster, you know, so that our residents can drive safely to work if they need to, and just, you know, there's a reduction in accidents. So I can't thank them enough for their quality of work here in Bedminster. And I also just want to thank everybody on the Township Committee for, you know, agreeing to support the senior van replacement. I think it's going to be way better for our seniors, and we want to make sure that we're serving that population the best way we can. So thank you all for that, and have a good night.
Hey, thank you. All right, so I will reiterate the comments regarding DPW and John Mance, even though he continued to plow my driveway under with more snow. But it was just a great job that John was doing out there and his crew everywhere throughout town. Also getting the speed signs up on Robertson. I tested them out. I was driving under 25 and it reflected that I was driving under 25. So glad to see them up, and glad to see that the residents are happy with that. And we do hope that it creates a safer environment in that area, and certainly a much better and more effective option than some of the other ideas that were thrown around out there. I'll take a motion to adjourn to executive session. We will, Township Committee, Ms. Ray, Ms. Sullivan, John Bellardo, and us, we will go to a separate Zoom room. This room will stay open for when we return to public session. So may we have motion to go to exec?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hey. All right, Robin, let's see how you do this.
You got to click off the recording.
Give me 1 sec.
Okay, it is 10:25 and the Township Committee is back from our executive session, and we do have a resolution to consider. This is Resolution 2021-025. This is a resolution authorizing the mayor, let's see, to approve the appointment of an HR professional to serve as the HR consultant for the Township of Bedminster during the period of February 1, 2021 to December 31, 2021, subject to the negotiation of an agreement. John, let's see, are we still waiting on, no, we have the contract from them.
Yeah, the contract should be there, and I think I did send it over to John to review.
I got it late Friday. I have some comments on it, so I would adopt a resolution subject to negotiation of an appropriate contract.
And that is actually in the resolution. So for folks out there, the consulting firm that we are considering is Inform, ENFORM, HR. And I think that's Inform, I thought it was Inform Inc. That might be their official name.
Inform HR. I'm sorry, Mayor.
Any questions or comments regarding Inform? We did discuss the results of their interview during an executive session. Gina and I, as the HR committee, Gina gave a strong thumbs up. I give the strong thumbs up. They've got municipal experience. They cover all the practice areas that we need as an employee of, we've got 40 something employees and we have HR issues, as any organization does. And of all the RFPs that we looked at, Gina and I agree that they are most qualified. It's a firm of 8 professionals. So you have the president and 7 other HR professionals. So you will have one primary contact with a supporting team, able to do training, and give advice on the salary, deal with interpersonnel issues, and to also assist Gina and me on as we pursue the interpersonnel cultural competency committee. So any other questions or comments? Seeing none, Gina, would you like to make the motion?
So move.
Second.
Renee's the second.
Okay, this will be roll call vote. Mr. Stevenson?
Aye.
Mr. Hickey?
Aye.
Ms. Moreski?
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez?
Aye.
Mayor Jacobs?
Aye. We have no other matters for tonight. It is 10:29. May we have motion to adjourn for the night.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Good night, everyone.
Aye.
All right, everyone. Thank you. Be safe.
Aye.
Thank you.
Night.